please call or text.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then move over Mexican Coke. Tufts food policy analyst Corby Kummer joins us to discuss Trump and RFK Jr.'s so-called big win on getting cane sugar in Coca-Cola. But is it any better and any healthier? Plus, the latest on the Fed seeking data on food stamp recipients and other food headlines. It's all ahead, 11 o'clock hour of BPR and GBH and NEPM.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. President Trump is set to visit the Federal Reserve this afternoon. This comes amidst a campaign from the president and his allies to badger Fed Chair Jerome Powell about interest rates and a major renovation of the Fed's Washington, D.C. building. NPR's Tamara Keith has more.
Trump has repeatedly charged that the Fed chair is too late in lowering interest rates. And then there's the renovation, which Trump allies suggest could be grounds for firing Powell. Here was Trump earlier this week.
No, we're not planning on doing anything. We're very concerned. He's doing a little renovation for $2.5 billion of the Fed.
It is over budget.
And it's a shame, but the biggest cost overrun is the cost overrun for interest rates, because we should be paying 3 points lower.
The Fed chair, whose term ends next year, says he has no intention of quitting. This visit amps up Trump's pressure campaign, which threatens the Fed's independence. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
Venezuela says that one of the 10 Americans returned to the U.S. last week in a prisoner exchange is a convicted murderer. As NPR's Carrie Kahn reports, Venezuelan officials say many of the released Americans still have criminal cases pending there.
Venezuelan public records show that one of the 10 Americans released last week as part of a prisoner swap was serving a 30-year sentence for a triple homicide in Spain. Danud Hanid Ortiz, a 54-year-old dual American-Venezuelan citizen, was arrested in 2016, but Venezuela refused to extradite him to Spain. Instead, he was tried in Venezuela and last year convicted. More than 250 Venezuelan migrants deported from the U.S. and sent to a notorious prison in El Salvador were exchanged for the Americans. A photo of the 10 arriving back in Texas last week included Hanid Ortiz. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said at the time the freed Americans were all wrongfully detained. A State Department official declined to comment, citing privacy. Carrie Kahn, NPR News.
A Texas committee focused on floods has heard from several state agencies about their needs during natural disasters. The panel of state lawmakers was created in the wake of last month's flooding in central Texas. We have more from the Texas Newsroom's Blaise Gainey.
Several recommendations were tossed around during the more than 8-hour-long hearing. One recommendation from Texas Division of Emergency Management Chief Nim Kidd was to start only allowing credentialed, professionally certified emergency managers, which in smaller counties can often be an appointed position.
We've got some great local emergency managers out there, but there's no baseline standardization for how they got to where they are.
The next meeting will be held in Kerrville, the area hardest hit by the storm. I'm Blaise Gainey in Austin.
Stocks are mixed on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrials are down 117 points. The Nasdaq is up more than 60. This is NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey is urging so-called bar advocates or public defenders to get back to work while continuing to fight for higher pay with the state legislature. Earlier this week, over 100 defendants were without representation have had their cases dismissed. Bar advocates stopped taking cases in late May, and Healey says her hope is that a resolution comes very quickly. But in the meantime, she says she'd like to see lawyers back in court representing defendants. Several bar advocates met over Zoom last night to vent their frustration and talk about what the next step should be. The attorneys are looking for a raise that would put their hourly rate for most cases at $100 an hour. That would be a $35 increase from what they currently make. The 34th Woods Hole Film Festival kicks off tomorrow, Friday, July 25, runs through August 2nd, featuring more than 60 screenings, workshops, master classes, and panel discussions, as well as lots of parties with live music in Woods Hole and in Falmouth. The festival's theme includes music and musicians, science, and Cape Cod connections. For tickets and info, just simply go to woodsholefilmfest.org. In sports, the Red Sox are off today. They host the Dodgers at friendly Fenway tomorrow, and there could be a workers' strike at Fenway as well as MGM Fenway. In the forecast, a heat advisory in effect through today, ending at 8 p.m. tomorrow. Hazy hot in Henry today, high in the 90s. The heat index will make it feel like it's triple digits. We're at 81 in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Sony Pictures Classics, presenting Oh Hi, a new comedy directed by Sophie Brooks starring Molly Gordon and Logan Lerman about a young couple whose romantic weekend slowly begins to unravel. Starts Friday in theaters.
Eastern Brownie, I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We're going to be back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow with Congressman Jake Auchincloss, Live Music Friday, Press Play, and more. Hello, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. So we'll start the show with a parenting check-in. You know, we often lament about how expensive and lonely and difficult it is for American parents. If only they had the proverbial village when it comes to raising kids. You can blame American cultural norms or moving away from grandparents or any slews of 21st century anxieties like social media addiction, rise of bowling alone-like behaviors, lack of trust of strangers, even our own neighbors. A new terrific piece in the Washington Post argues that parents themselves in the United States are part of the problem. Marina Lopes is author of the book, what a great title, Please Yell at My Kids. She makes the case in the Washington Post that parents, all of whom could use more support, could also benefit from loosening up a bit when it comes to how other people interact with their kids, as parents do in virtually every country in the world except ours. Here's a couple of things she says. Parents say they want a village, but too often only want villagers who parent exactly as we do. And then she says at the end of her piece, but the beauty of a village isn't sameness. It's the wild, messy, deeply varied ways we show up for each other again and again. So the number's 877-301-8970 to call or text. What do you make of this idea that a helping hand, even if it isn't a hand exactly as you would use it, could make all the difference? Do you feel like Maria Lopes does, that it's all right if the parent of your kid's best friend occasionally uses a stern voice, maybe even sends your kid home when they've misbehaved? And I guess more broadly, as parents, how are you juggling it all and making it work in America in 2025? Again, the number's 877-301-8970. By the way, in her piece, she cites 66% of parents in the United States in a recent poll say they feel isolated, which is really horrible for them and horrible for the kid.
Well, I love how this piece started, this Washington Post piece that the writer says, my friend Melissa has the voice of a principal. You don't want to cross her. It's calm, steady, sometimes dripping with disapproval. On Wednesday night, I watched her use it on my son. Ollie, down. And he immediately dislocated himself from climbing up her table and knocking a plant onto her Persian rug. And she says, and Melissa, the mother says, she might have just given her kid a warning and maybe plead, him to get off the table, or she would put it up a little bit longer. But this other person just kind of just had very stern, okay, sit down, and it worked. You see this sometimes. Remember, this was in school too. There were teachers that had no control over the class, and then teachers that just nobody moved. That's some people have that and some people don't. But I think the thing now is that every generation parents differently. So when you're the new generation of parenting, you have all these mommy blogs, all these rules, all these things you're supposed to do that are different than what your mother did or your grandmother did. And when your mother or grandmother tries to do what she used to do, the new parents don't like it.
Well, I'm saying it's not just intergenerational, it's intra-generational. I mean, as evidenced by this thing, they're contemporaries. The parent that she's talking about, the stern one down the block. So I think her basic point is brilliant. We're all lonely. We all want this village if we're parents of young kids. But as she says, we want those parents to be exactly like this, where they don't tolerate sort of a different mode of parenting. Yeah. And if the other parent has the best interests of your kid at heart, who the hell cares? Maybe it's healthy for them to experience a little bit different kind of child rearing than they do at home.
Okay, here's another great example. This mother talks about getting a crash course in millennial parenting at a playground when she warned her, this is a grandmother, when she warned her granddaughter to, hey, be careful. The mother corrects her. We don't say that anymore. we say, what's your plan here?
Well, here's the go. We have sound that's exactly that. This is a TikTok skit of a millennial mom teaching her boomer mother about what she calls gentle parenting. Here it is.
Be careful. We don't say be careful anymore. Instead say, what's your plan here? I don't even know my plan. Do you know your plan? Don't. Stop. Hit your sister. Don't say stop. Say gentle. Gentle what? Gentle hands. Gentle hands? Gentle. Everything. Gentle everything. I am so proud of you. You're not supposed to tell kids you're proud of them anymore. Why not? That's putting the focus on you. What? I'm so proud. Don't say that. What should I say instead? You should be so proud. I am so proud. No, it's back on you again.
That is fabulous. 877-301-8970 is the number. By the way, I wasn't exaggerating. In this woman's piece, I assume she knows what she's talking about, she cites countries in all different cultures in all parts of the world where community parenting is the deal. I mean, it is the deal. It could be grandparents. It could be neighbors. What's the country she mentions?
Singapore. She said, Mozambique, too.
Read the Mozambique
in Mozambique, child care is usually collective. One adult watches a street full of kids while the other parents are at work. And she says that in America, 4% of children are being raised by their grandparents. But in Singapore, it's 50% are the primary caregivers by the time the kids are 18 months old because the parents are at work. So I guess once the kids are weaned or whatever, then they go with grandma and mom goes back to work or dad goes back to work, however they work it out in Singapore. But the other thing is that a lot of people are really far. The extended family is not next door.
You have a neighbor next door.
Well, you have a neighbor.
And your neighbor is likely to have kids too, or maybe the neighbor next door to her is likely to have kids.
Well, there's always the kind of I don't know if the resentment maybe between the stay-at-home mom and who's not working outside the home, and the working mom who often asks the stay-at-home mom, "Gee, can you pick Susie up at daycare because I'm stuck at work, or can you bring Susie home from school because I'm stuck at work?" And sometimes that doesn't go well because the resentment kind of builds. There's a thing between those kind of mothers, ones who are working outside.
Stephanie from Worcester texts, "I'm not a parent, but I'm a teacher. I have to bite my tongue in public so often so I don't speak to children and upset their parents."
Yeah.
It's a teacher who doesn't speak to children. Thank you, Stephanie, for your candor.
We're in the age of gentle parenting.
Yeah.
As we said, we can't say be careful anymore. That's out. That's done. It's over.
Well, wait, I just realized you're a grandparent.
I am.
How's it going, you and your kid?
I shut up. I shut up. But what you do, there are all these rules. But, if you're babysitting and,
you're in charge.
You can turn on that television set. You can do a little extra screen time. You can give them another popsicle.
Those who listen to the show only know Marjorie through the radio. She's a pretty tough. I knew you when your kids were younger.
I was tougher.
You're tougher. You're tough. You
not
are
as tough as my mother was.
Yeah,
but
what was it? What did your mother? What her kind of thing?
She just looked at me. That was it. I froze.
You just looked in your direction?
Yeah. I remember when I was a little kid being, at church, we're good Catholics. You always go to church every Sunday. We'd be in a line, exact same line. My father, my mother, my older sister, and me in the line. And I'd yawn. I'd yawn. And all of a sudden she'd lean over. That'd be it. I'd freeze. It was amazing that she could.
My mother did when I misbehaved? Do you want a half or a whole salami sandwich? Let's go to Christina in Situate. You are first on the Parenting Hour here on BPR. Hi.
Hi. Thank you guys so much for taking my call.
Our pleasure.
I love this topic.
Thanks.
Long-time listener. So I totally could have written that book. What is it called? Please Yell at My Kids.
Please Yell at My Kids, yeah.
That's the story of my life. I live in a neighborhood where the kids run wild. I honestly, I'm not even great friends with the moms in my neighborhood. I love them and we talk and we text each other, but it's literally hey, is my kid there? Can you send him home? And that's about the extent of it. And sometimes we'll see each other at little neighborhood events, but it's not I'm their best friend or anything, but I'm totally open to them yelling at my kids anytime they want. They will tell me. I will be at a school event and they'll say, "Oh, by the way, just I screamed at your boys because they weren't wearing their helmets on their bike." And I'll say, "Oh, good, I'm so glad. Thank you so much. That must be why they came home and got their
Thank you
helmets."
so much. Hey, Christina, the connection's not great, so we got to let you go. But what we heard was terrific. I want to repeat
we have a message from Jamie.
What is it?
He says, Marjorie, you can watch my kid anytime, parent however you want. Just don't forget where you left him.
Okay, fine. I want to repeat a quote myself a minute ago. The other value of this, beyond the fact that it makes the parent less isolated, gives them much needed help, addresses depression because they're so isolated, that kind of thing, is you expose your kid to different kinds of people who do different kinds of parenting, which gives them a much better sense of the world. Even if you're the best parent in the world, you parent in a particular way. So isn't it good to have some parenting diversity, for lack of a better expression?
Yeah, and
Trump would outlaw that, of course.
I think your kids notice it, too, when they go to different people's homes or they're with their grandparents, their aunts and uncles, that people are different.
You know what story just occurred to me? We did a decade or so ago when pediatricians in Massachusetts started. No. It was like we had a parent call. We were doing a parenting segment, and a mother called us and said whenever her kid was going to another kid's house, she would call the parents first and ask if there was a gun in the house.
I know.
And while I think we may have mocked her at first, that's not an unreasonable kind of thing.
Well,
short of that, what?
Sometimes it happens when your kid comes home and says they were playing with a revolver over at Johnny's house. You said, "Oh my God!" Did you read the sticker, the jerk thing?
No, I didn't.
Here's a texter who says, "I need to find a little jerks on board sticker for my car."
Pam in Fall River, welcome to the show. How are you? Hi, Pam.
Hello?
Hi, you're on.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Hi. Yep. Oh my gosh.
You okay?
I'm joking.
It's okay.
Do you want us to put us?
I'm so sorry.
Do you want to put us on hold, and we'll wait till you stop choking and come back
let's
to you?
hear her choking for a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Jim.
Are you okay, Pam?
No, I'm good.
Good.
Yes, I just wanted to say so much yes to this entire conversation. My oldest is 11, and he plays baseball. And some other kids from his team, they've been playing wiffle ball this summer so much. And I've been able to excuse me.
It's okay.
Connect with some of the other parents. And they've been spending hours playing wiffle ball by themselves at the park.
Hey, Pam, we are going to put you, Pam, because I feel like I'm being cruel. We're going to put you on hold for 30 seconds.
And then
have a sip of water.
Yeah, don't hang up. We'll come back to you.
We'll take one call, and we promise we'll come right back to you. That's right. Derek and Weymouth, welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Good.
I literally have a text chain on my phone that I renamed Village.
That's great.
Parents from Ghana, Senegal, Iraq, of course, Irish American local folks, like some single moms and some single dads on there. They deserve all the support they can get.
Great.
So I feel like if you're not doing the Village thing, it's really on you. It's out there. It's available. It's the best way to do it.
Why is it the best way to do it? Because it makes your life better, or because it makes the kid's life better, or both?
I mean, when the kids are hanging out at the soccer field for hours on end, do you want every parent to have to be there the whole time?
Yeah,
no.
that's a good point.
So, we trade off. The kids are able to go places and hang out places by themselves in certain situations. It's great.
Derek, we just got a text similar to what you're saying. This person said they have a fantastic parenting village, taking their kid to the Hale Family Community Program in Westwood. I don't know about it, but this was what they say. They've been there since they were born. Scores of family, all different walks of life, speak different languages. Most important to me, aside from the well-being of my children, is seeing that other people can also be right in their parenting. And sometimes my way of parenting isn't the best approach. I feel less isolated as a parent, and I know my kids are growing up to be open-minded, happy children. That's a great point, too, because sometimes you are doing things wrong, or sometimes somebody else does have a better
Here's
idea.
Eric and Hopedale. I let my kids eat off the floor, builds up their immune system. I mean, who could disagree with that? Let's hope Pam is not expired. Pam, are you still with us?
I'm good. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes. So, about the diversity of parenting. And the way the kids, when they're left to their own devices, have to figure things out.
That's a great point.
They're playing this wiffle ball, and they're adjudicating the rules, and they're arguing, and they're figuring it out. And they're going to be out there, and yes, stuff might happen. They might mess up, but they have to learn these things. These are skills, and they're not going to get them in our houses staring at screens.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. Pam,
Very
we're
good
glad
one.
you stuck with us. We're glad you're better. Thank you. Call us again soon. Pam,
Hey, listen to
appreciate
this
it.
one. If I have a child misbehaving in my home, I look at the parents and very calmly say, should I speak to them or would you like to? That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
Here's Harmony in Providence. Parenting in America today is hard. I'm a single mom, carry all the responsibility. My daughter has autism, and although never voiced, it's clear no one in my circle would be willing to babysit. Worry about how I'll afford rent, food, childcare is constant. I remember there were so many people involved when I was growing up, but today that village is gone. Well, if there's a friend or neighbor of Harmony listening, I hope you decide the village should be reinstated.
It's hard, though. Don't you feel funny? I mean, when you had kids over at your house and, your kids' friends, and they did something wrong, that was a tough one. I mean, what'd you do?
I wasn't as stern as I think you were, but I was pretty...
Yeah, but I think a lot of us, my instinct was always to call the parents and tell them what the kid did before I stepped in.
Well, you're tough. I mean, you really are tough.
No,
I mean that as a
that's
compliment.
being tough. That's calling the parents and having them step in and, tell Johnny just whacked my kid.
I know you know this. I was rarely the fill-in parent for other kids' but I told you this story before.
I know. Well, I told you.
I was at the Y. I told Marty this story before. I don't know if I've told it on the air. A bunch of years ago, there were a bunch of mothers there and only one father. I was the father. And so the only person who could go in the little boys' locker room, they were 6 and 7, first and second graders, tell them to hurry up and get dressed was me. And I wasn't used to that because I take care of my own kids. I did my share at least, let's put it that way, or almost my share. And then I went in the locker room, 6 and 7-year-old boys, and I said, hey, kids, got to get dressed. You know what the kids said to me? F you, 6 and 7-year-olds. And by the way, I don't mean one of them. I mean like 10 of them. And they're up to your knees. You.
Being a big guy didn't seem to help.
So you know what I did? I didn't take that.
What?
Turned around, walked right out. So I'm not taking that from a little kid.
Jim just finished telling us that he did his share.
No, a small share.
A small share. First time I met your wife, what did I say? I said, you've got 2 wonderful children, Chris. And she says, oh yeah? Pointed at Jim. Well, he had nothing to do with it.
Thank you. Thank you. There's some truth to that. It's not some truth to that.
I thought that was great.
I knew you did. Karen, where are you? Oh, Karen, before you come on, I want to say you're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Karen in Manchester, it's now your turn. Hi.
Hi, how are you guys?
We're excellent.
Fine, thanks.
Oh, I'm so excited. I am 37 years. I taught in the public schools, small children. And I got to tell you, the happiest kids, the happiest, most balanced, most normal kids were the kids that came from homes where the parents had clear limits on behaviors. And the kids without the boundaries and firm limits were not happy. They were the kids who acted out. And I would say to the parents at conferences, they might act like they don't want any rules, but they crave.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what kills me?
They are unsettled. They are anxious when they don't know who the boss is.
How about this, Karen? You hear this so often. Somebody say, Johnny, if you do that again, you're going to pick up your towel and going to go home. And then Johnny does it again. Do they pick up the towel and go home? No. No. So why do people do that all the time?
Because they don't. It all has to do with short-term, long-term.
Yeah.
My husband, the behavioral psychologist, says, it's so much easier in the short term to just, make it easy in the moment. But then the long term is just bad news. It's not how that's really a big part of it, I think. I see that with all sorts of people.
Yeah.
Parents.
Well, I think it's because discipline is so time consuming. And now everybody's working so hard. And when you get home at 6 o'clock, do you want to spend the time or do you want to take the path of least resistance? And I think
it's harder.
I think we're taking the path of least resistance.
Not you. Karen, thank you for the call. Anonymous
texter. You make me sound like I'm some kind of a drill sergeant.
I admire it. And I'm serious. You're a wonderful mother. You were and you are a wonderful mother.
And as we know, you had nothing to do with anything.
And my kids turned out fine. So I think it was a wise choice on my part. So an anonymous texter is summarizing a couple of minutes ago. Caller, I'm choking. Jim, we're going to put you on hold so you can choke on your own. I thought that was actually totally sympathetic and empathetic or whatever that
Michael
is.
In Providence. Hi.
Hey, Michael.
Hello. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Long time, first time.
We love that.
I have
Thank
a 7-year-old daughter, and I'm trying to co-parent with my ex who lives on the other side of town.
Oh, it's hard.
He tries. Yeah, and she's 7 years old. We just moved to a nice neighborhood. There's kids outside playing all the time, so I kick her outside and go play, go do things, get out of the house. And my ex is like, well, no, where's she going? Who kids are she playing with? I'm like, the neighbor kids. Like, I haven't met those kids. I'm like, well, yeah, because you don't live here.
Okay. Well, you've made sure that these parents are not axe murderers or anything, or aren't loaded up with weaponry and stuff, Michael, I assume, right?
Oh, of course, yes.
Okay.
This is a great neighborhood. There's 12 kids out there all playing. I'm like, yeah, let her go do her thing.
So how do you resolve the dispute?
Oh, well, we have rules and stuff. I'm like, no, I didn't break any rules. She said there's no one in charge there. She's doing her own thing. I let her go out and play, and I try to limit, communication. If we get into a spat, it's a great thing that we don't live together anymore. So, guys, I'll call you next week, and we'll talk about this next week, maybe.
Excellent first call, Michael. We hope we hear from you again. Thank you.
Here's Josh from Waltham, a kindergarten teacher. The unattended kids in P-Town at the Provincetown Inn pool during Family Week made me have to practice deep breathing techniques. Okay, we can feel your pain. We're talking about parenting, how it's difficult to be just a nuclear family parenting, but sometimes the reason the extended family doesn't come in is because the nuclear parents are so critical of what the extended family wants to do, or anybody else who'd like to tell their kid to get off the coffee table. 877-301-8970. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Our number is 877-301-8970.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Cambridge Homes, a nonprofit independent and assisted living residence proudly serving the Cambridge community and local seniors for more than 130 years. Learn more at thecambridgehomes.org/tradition. And the Museum of Science, presenting the new exhibit, Perception Playground, which explores how your brain shapes your understanding of reality. Tickets at MOS.org.
Many cars have gotten greener thanks to innovations in battery technology, but that is not a viable solution for planes.
Long-distance aviation simply cannot wait for those technologies to mature.
But a team of Swiss scientists think they found a solution. That story and more global news is ready for you next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Jim Browder and Taskmaster Marjorie Egan, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're back at the library tomorrow. Marjorie wanted me to say there are no tickets or RSVP required. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about parenting in 2025, inspired by a wonderful piece in the Washington Post by Marina Lopes, whose book is called Please Yell at My Kids, arguing that some American parents who feel isolated set expectations too high for how other people are interacting with their kids, and if we were maybe a little more accepting of different parenting styles in the so-called village around us, we'd all be happier and parenting wouldn't be so hard. We don't know if you're buying it. 877-301-8970 is the number. Kate in Bridgewater, hi.
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 I had a very bad experience at church, believe it or not.
Okay.
So I was going to a church that supposedly prided itself on being open and friendly and welcoming to everybody. We had a little time in the morning where we would sit around and have coffee, and people would come and you'd say hello. And there was a little boy who had been going for a while, and he was about 5 years old, and he knew people. He was behaving badly, and he was being very rude to another grown-up who was speaking to him. And so I also intervened and said, little boy, Oscar is speaking to you. You shouldn't just run away. You should acknowledge that. Well, unbeknownst to me, the grandmother witnessed and the exchange, and I got a very terse letter saying I had no right to say that. How dare I say something to her grandchild? She stopped going to the church because I dared to speak to her grandchild under those circumstances. I just thought it was very bizarre how affronted she became.
I'm totally with you. Totally bizarre.
But I think that's not unusual, though.
I don't think it's unusual
I think it's become more common. We don't want anybody else to say anything to our kids.
Remember
but
that
Kate,
time?
thank
I was
you
just
for the call.
thinking the beautiful instance of me stepping in, not as but as part of a village. Remember when that little kid, when I was flying back from London, I told you, moved his seat. He was like 4 feet tall all the way back, and I interceded, and I told the kid to move up his seat, his reclining seat, or else.
Yeah.
And I thought I did quite well. His father was not totally happy.
Is that the one where they brought the air marshals?
No, they said they made me leave my seat and stand at the 747 bar the whole trip home, or the air marshals were coming. That's true. Matt in Charlestown said, I was born in 84, and I think how I was raised was the golden age of parenting, somewhere in between the what's your plan generation and the go down to the corner and buy your father a pack of Parliaments generation.
Yeah, there was that story about the little. It was the Chinese kids. Who are the kids with the flags?
Japanese
Japan.
Kids. What's the name of that show for the 400th
I don't know.
time?
I forget.
Old enough.
Yeah,
it's the cutest.
Kids like is 2 years old.
Who are like 3 feet tall.
Still in diapers. They're going down to buy packs of Parliaments, I guess, over there. But they have a little flag so that it sticks up about 3 feet above their heads.
But they walk like a half mile to the grocery store or whatever.
Get some Jack Daniels while you're there.
It's a fabulous show. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM.
Kate in North Andover, thanks for calling.
Hey, how are you doing, guys?
Excellent.
Awesome. So I just wanted to call because I have this memory when I'm in my 40s now. I have this memory from when I was a kid. I was either at like a summer camp or whatever, I don't know. And there was a grown-up who yelled at me very sternly, like, I was a good kid. Like, I didn't mess around too much. So when something happened, like, it wasn't offense. And I don't remember what I did, but this grown woman, very sternly yelled at me and put me in my place. And I remember being so frozen with fear and just shock and like my butt. Like, I can feel this right now talking to you in my 40s. Like, that's
totally
how much it affected me. And because now as a parent, I feel like, I would be totally fine with someone disciplining my kid. I think it's important. I think what some of your viewers have been saying, it's important for them to have this different experience with different people, yada, yada. And yet as a child, it was so it really affected me. And I'm just curious. It's a weird dichotomy. I'm just curious what that psychology is there as for kids. Like, I'm just curious about it. It's just strange.
Yeah, that's a great question.
That is a great question.
I don't know, and I don't know the answer, but I think sometimes children behave better for other people than they do for their own parents. I think they behave even better for their grandparents. Or
I think if they have a strict parent, I bet you they behave not as well.
Maybe.
In many cases.
Listen to this
That was
one.
a great call, Kate. Thank you. Appreciate it.
A mother visited with a child who promptly dumped my 6-month-old daughter out of her infant seat onto the floor. As I tended to my 6-month-old on the floor, I heard the mother gently say to the son who did it, "Babies are not for hurting." Once I determined my child was okay, I gave that kid a piece of my mind. Later, the mother said, "I noticed the child was really listening to you, and there was no more misbehavior during that visit."
Stacy in Boston. Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I've been so laughing at all these stories. But so my kids are all in their 30s now, and when they were about 12. We had a small little beach house that was 3 rooms, and it was a rainy day, and I had 4 boys and a girl in the house, and not quite knowing what to do with them for the day. And my kids said they wanted to see Austin Powers, the movie. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, okay, 12 years old, rated R. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to take them. So they went to the movie. They had a great time. My girlfriend got wind of the fact that her 2 boys went, and she called me and said, "Stace, what were you thinking of?" And I said, "Marsha, These are my house rules. I've got your boys for a bunch of days.
Good for you.
And in my house, these are my rules, and they loved the movie. And she burst out laughing, and she said, you know what? You're totally right. And somehow they survived all of our bad parenting, and they're contributors these days. But it has been something we've laughed about for years.
That's a fabulous story.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
And they love the movie, as Stacey said. That's great,
good, and good for her for realizing that you were right and she was wrong. Thank you for the call, Stacey. Okay, we're done. Thanks a lot for your calls.
You can't keep saying we're done.
We're not done
because people think we're done.
No, we're not done. We're not done. We're just not talking about parents anymore.
That's correct.
Or at least not really. Anyway, we're going to talk instead with Tufts Food and Policy Analyst.
To the father of another kid, I can't punch your kid in the face, but if he doesn't cut the crap, I'm going to punch you in the face.
Oh, that's a good one. We're going to talk to
I don't
Corby
know where that came from, but
about Market Basket, RFK Jr. changing Coca-Cola, and the wonderful beloved chef Jacques Pepin partying hardy Jim
Jacques
Pepin at nearly 90. This is Boston Public Radio. This is BPR on GBH and NEPM, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
There were fears of overcrowding after DOJ cuts to the National Park Service. Now, that has not happened in Glacier National Park in Montana, but staffing is paper thin.
We've lost electricians. We could say if you want any more information, go talk to our public information officer, but she's gone.
I'm Mary Louise Kelly. The impact of DOJ's cuts during peak vacation season on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, helping families overcome the college planning stress. Committed to providing trusted guidance with calculators, step-by-step videos, and more. Details at mefa.org. And Subaru of New England, the all-wheel drive 2025 Subaru Crosstrek, is committed to keeping your loved ones safe on adventures this summer. Subaru retailer locations at subaruofnewengland.com.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library tomorrow, Congressman Jake Auchincloss will be with his fabulous Celtic music and press play and a whole bunch more. We're joined now on Zoom by food policy analyst, multiple James Beard winner, Corby Kummer. Corby is the executive director of the Food and Society Policy Program at the Aspen Institute, senior editor at The Atlantic, and a senior lecturer at the Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition, Science, and Policy. Hello, Corby.
Hello, Jim. Hello, Marjorie.
Hey.
Hi, Corby. So, we talk a lot about Market Basket. Jim's over there 7 o'clock every Saturday morning. He loves Market Basket. Lots of people love Market Basket. There's kind of a meltdown going on over there. We had two of the top executives on the show. One had been there 50 years. One had been there close to 40 years that got fired this week. And there's an inter-family fight. What do you make of this whole situation?
What I make of it is, why do the sisters who allied with RT to help push out a cousin who was threatening things 11, why are they making such trouble in a widely loved $8 billion business? We haven't even heard their side of it. Like, if they're being cheated of profits they feel they need. I feel like I need to find out, why isn't there a PR person for the sisters? Because everything they're doing seems disruptive, dumb, backfiring on themselves, and completely unpopular. Did you two get any insight from the fired executives who said this is just vindictive?
Well, I don't know. We got a lot of insight from them, but in answer to your thing, why don't they hire a PR person? They have a PR person. We got a statement like the rest of the press did, and it's mostly just trashing Arthur T. DeMoulis and these executives who they fired, rather than a full explanation.
Yeah.
And by the way, I want to repeat, we've invited them on the show. We continue to invite them on the show. If they want to answer questions and have a real conversation about what the problem is there, maybe we'll be more sympathetic to their side of the argument.
I think the closest we got is one of the sisters wants their son to run the company, and he's a deli manager.
I don't know if they've said that in their statements. I think that's
I think
some of the reports are.
People say that work at Market Basket.
But you know what I'm interested in, Corby, since you have a much broader perspective on the industry. I don't just mean grocery business, but the food business. Have you ever seen a situation like this where not once, but twice, employees, executives have shown this level of loyalty to a CEO? I mean, I am just stunned by the dynamic within the company.
No, I've seen, disloyalty in all of the national Starbucks moves to unionize, and anger that the employees weren't being given hours they wanted and were being penalized for trying to unionize. Various fast food service places, harassment and labor, but I haven't seen the reverse, where the employees rallied around one management faction over another, which leads us back to the original question, like, what is RT doing wrong if customers are still loyal and they're still making money hand over fist?
And the corollary question is, why aren't other CEOs in the industry deciding, since he is making money hand over fist, and since there is such loyalty and internal cohesion amongst the workers, why aren't they emulating the model that he's engineered into such a terrific success? In any case, we hope we'll hear, other than in a written statement.
Let me just speak to that just a bit.
Yeah.
There are so few family-owned supermarkets left. Wegmans is family-owned. They have a radically loyal fan base, but almost everything else is corporate-owned.
Yeah, and publicly traded, I would imagine, too. So it becomes a big issue about how much money to ship.
Yeah, but we had this discussion yesterday. The fact that you need to provide a reasonable return to the stockholder doesn't mean you have to treat your employees poorly.
What are you talking about? That's why wages are stagnant all across America.
No, I understand they use that as an excuse, and their first loyalty is to the stockholder. It doesn't have to be, is what I was saying.
No, it doesn't have to be, but there's a greed level here, I think, at work.
Can we move to a much more beautiful story?
Yes.
When Jacques Pepin was only 89 years old, he's been with us a number of times, and boy, is it great.
He's great.
He was on in 2024. He was talking to us about why you should always follow a recipe exactly the first time you make it. Here it is.
You should do it exactly the way it is. If it comes out good, you like it, you're likely to do it again. And the second time you do it, you take a faster look. By the third time, you won't even look. And a year later, you massage that recipe enough. You don't put much tomato, you put less onion, you put more of this, less of that. You massage it and you set it for your sense of taste, for your sense of aesthetic, and it becomes your recipe.
One of the most charming human beings I think we've ever had in the studio. What's your connection? What do you think of Mr.
Well,
Pepin?
there's nobody with that charming accent. There's nobody with that kind of energy and that charm. I knew him when he was cooking in the kitchen with Julia, and we would, a bunch of various Boston food people would be invited over, and he would say with that twinkle in his eye, every time I'm invited over to Julia's for dinner, somehow I wind up doing the cooking. We all did. She would have me look at toast in the oven. She would put a big sheet pan of baguette slices in the oven and say, "Do you always burn it?" And I would say, "Yes, I always let it go 10 seconds too long." And she would say, "Yes." It was convivial and fantastic, and she relied on Jacques a lot. But nobody has his reservoir of knowledge. So his La Technique, which is a bunch of grainy black and white photographs, is completely unparalleled. 1976 for learning kitchen technique. He would do, I saw him rescue a dish at Julia's once with a gastrique, which is just vinegar and sugar that you kind of burn over the stove, and it adds this flavored jolt. It's this sudden, like a version of Tabasco or some kind of flavor gravy master or some enhancer. He has a secret and a trick for everything. He's an improviser. But this article was about 90 birthday dinners for his 90th birthday. his son-in-law. He has a wonderful daughter, Claudine.
Yeah, we met them, remember?
Oh, they've been here. Yeah, they're great. They're
Went to
great.
BU.
As is his granddaughter. Remember, he wrote a cookbook with his granddaughter.
together, he and
they
his
both came in.
granddaughter,
But go ahead, Corby, I'm sorry.
Utterly delightful, utterly charming family, and she and her husband, especially her husband, Raleigh Weiser, I think is his last name, have been starting a foundation for culinary education, and they hatched this idea for 90 dinners around the country where people like Rick Bayless, the fantastic Mexican chef, would do dinners in Jacques' honor, some of which Jacques is able. He's got some back problems, so he can't travel as much. But when he's there, I saw him just last year at a French Culinary Institute. It's now called ICE, International Center for Culinary Education, tribute in New York. And he was holding court and had a warm word and a twinkle in his eye for everyone. He got a PhD in his 50s at BU, taught in college. He's an inspirational figure. He's still around. He still loves life and food, and we can all learn a tremendous amount from him.
But I should say, speaking of BU, Marjorie and I had the incredible thrill of being invited to a fundraising dinner that he was featured at BU for the program there. Who did he ask to sit next to, Marjorie? I can't remember.
I sat next to him for the whole dinner. It was just, he's such a lovely, charming, fun to talk to. You're right, full of life, loves life. And he talked about how much he missed his wife, who just passed away a little while ago, and how, they enjoyed having their glass of wine and they're cooking dinner together. And just a wonderful guy. But what a lovely family, too. The granddaughter,
everybody's great.
Such a sweet kid.
It's Wesson, by the way. It's Raleigh Wesson, just for whatever that's worth. We're talking to Corby Kummer. Well, let's go back to the bad news. A data collection on people in this country, particularly people who are not favored by the Trump administration, is rampant. And the latest is data collection in a centralized fashion on food stamp recipients. Why should this be of concern, if it should, Corby Kummer?
It should be a terrible concern. The only excuse by congressional mandate for getting personal information on SNAP recipients is to investigate fraud or abuse. This isn't that. It is theorized to be targeting student activists and, all kinds of really dangerous possible uses of prying into private lives. And the number of farm workers, I was just with a California representative, elected representative this morning, who was talking about 29% of farm workers in the Central Valley of California rely on SNAP, and 70% of them are foreign-born, and don't know what percentage of those people are undocumented. But the idea already in Trump 1, many local workers who were foreign-born weren't showing up at SNAP because they were afraid they'd be investigated or nabbed and deported. And we all kind of thought of that in Trump 1 as being, far-fetched and police state stuff we weren't going to see. Now we're seeing it. And so SNAP is, the feds are demanding personal information on SNAP recipients in different states. And as you've probably talked about on this show, is it 7 states turned over Medicaid personal data to the feds without telling the state government that they were doing it? They just complied? This is, very dangerous stuff.
Yeah, it's not only very dangerous stuff, but it's also a violation of, I guess I would argue, an unwritten contract with the person who's receiving the benefit. As the woman says in the beginning of this piece on this collection of data, when she provided the information to the state, it was with the expectation, which was reasonable, that would be the state would be the sole recipient of the information, not that it would be transferred to some, faceless set of bureaucrats in Washington. So on a whole bunch of levels, it's creepy, but yet another thing that the American people are lying down and taking. We're talking to Corby Kummer.
So, Corby, RFK Jr., people know he's running Health and Human Services now, is not a fan of vaccines. Apparently, he's not a fan of high fructose corn syrup, which I get because I don't think it's very healthy. You can straighten us out on that if I'm wrong. But he wants to get that out of Coke and put in cane sugar instead. First, what's wrong with high fructose corn syrup, and is this a good idea?
In one word, it's sugar. So is cane sugar. They're both bad. It is not worth worrying about or sweating the difference between them. They're sugar. They help cause diabetes. They're completely bad for you in excess. And you shouldn't be having sugar. You should just be having less of it. You can have some, but just a lot less of it. Don't worry about whether it's cane sugar or high fructose corn syrup. This has been like a false narrative that the liver doesn't digest it well, that it causes more liver damage and more toxicity. There's like no real evidence that it's worse for you than cane sugar. It's all bad for you, and we're drinking too much of it. So cane sugar and Coke, it's part of this dyes, just a minor sideshow to hide cutting SNAP benefits, cutting access to fresh food, which is what people need. They need affordable alternatives to high stomach feeling, high sugar soda. They need money to be able to buy fresh food. So no, high fructose corn syrup is not worse for you than cane syrup particularly. There's no good evidence about it. It's all sugar. It's all digested the same way, and we're having too much of it.
So, let's get another Trump administration person into this discussion. Trump meets with the Coke guy and then announces unilaterally that cane sugar Coke is going to replace high fructose corn syrup Coke in the United States. And then a couple of days later, and Coke doesn't say that, a couple of days later, Coke says cane sugar Coke, which is currently available in Mexico, is now going to be available in addition to high fructose corn syrup Coke in the United States. Maybe you don't know this, or maybe nobody knows this. Did Coke do that because they had already planned to do that, or they did it like everybody else who's too scared to not do whatever Trump tells them to do, including importing cane sugar Coca-Cola to the United States?
So they're not doing that. They're doing very, very little. And industry has had its way with just listening to all of this Baja stuff from the beginning. For example, there's no law that they have to eliminate dyes. There were 2 dyes that the Biden administration had already started to outlaw. It's a Biden initiative. That's the only thing that has any teeth that's been happening so far. All of the rest is voluntary compliance, and Kennedy and Trump suggesting strongly and saying that industry is going to do it. Industry isn't saying they're going to do it. So Coke is not reformulating at all. What it's doing is saying that it's going to offer a cane syrup version. So it'll give consumers more choice. It's not taking out high fructose corn syrup from the vast majority. It's not importing from Mexico. It's just adding a line that will be available. Doesn't say how much, doesn't say in how many states. It just says, we're doing this. And the Washington Post did a really good blind taste test of Mexican versus American high fructose corn syrup, including with a bunch of diehard We Prefer Mexican Cokes. Several of them couldn't tell the difference and were sure that high fructose corn syrup was the Mexican Coke. And when you read about, there was a piece in, was it Axios or maybe the Post again? Yeah, it was the Post again yesterday saying, 1/5 of all deaths in Mexican adults that are due to diabetes, cardiovascular disease, or obesity-related cancer were because of sugar-sweetened beverage. So it's not any better for you. It still makes you die.
By the way, it was a couple of years ago that Mexico, the fattest nation on earth, was the U.S., and Mexico claimed the number 1 position 5 or 10 years ago.
Corby, I read, and maybe it was talking to you, that the issue about high fructose corn syrup was that it was used in so many products where it needed to be not there or no sugar needed to be there. But this was a way to pay farmers in the Midwest who had all this excess corn. They needed something to do with it. Like they put it in all these breads and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's kind of outdated. First of all, let me just say, Coke doesn't kill you. Too much Coke kills you, and not having enough money to get fresh food instead is what kills you. So I will never say that sugar kills you. It's in excess, and it's not eating enough fiber and other good, healthful foods. So the high fructose corn syrup, because of corn, a very small percentage of corn, again, at this fantastic agricultural policy breakfast I just came from, in the U.S. is used for anything like food. The vast majority is used for animal feed, and now ethanol, which is a complete, waste. Most food people think it's just a waste. The reason high fructose corn syrup appears in all these things like bread is it is not only palatable and helps people like it better, but it keeps it moist and it's a preservative. The way that sodium is in bread and everything. So it's functional. It's not just to sneak sugar into your food so that you will become addicted and keep buying this high sugar food. That's a sort of side effect, but it's mostly just so it'll have a longer shelf life.
You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM. To put the seal on this, by the way, Jamie says Coke already does this for Passover, making special editions of Coke with cane sugar, have little yellow caps so you can tell the difference. Before you go, speaking of soda, what's weird? I was thinking last night, I've told you, one of the reasons I was such a fat kid is I used to drink like gallons of real Pepsi. I don't even know if they had Diet Pepsi in those days when I was a kid. And I don't even know why I stopped. I have no idea, because I have no willpower about anything. And I have but in any case. So putting that aside for a second, dirty soda appears to be the rage. There's this place called The Fountain in Clinton that was written about by Deborah First in the Globe that now has huge business. I never even heard of it till this story. What is dirty soda? And I assume it's no better for you than real soda.
I would never be so ungracious as to remind you that we talked about dirty soda in Mormon communities in Utah a couple of years ago as it being sort of the naughty thing.
I wasn't paying attention that day. I forgot to tell you that. I'm sorry.
It was with another host, Jim.
No, I don't think so. Go ahead. What is it?
It's different kinds of flavoring syrups. It's old-fashioned fountain drinks that every small town, including Rockville, Connecticut, where I grew up, had Vincent's Pharmacy. And my mother was a soda jerk for a while as a teenager, a summer job. It's this charming idea that there are many different... What about Lime Rickeys at Bailey's?
Yeah, that's right.
That's dirty soda. It's the same thing. So it's different flavorings in carbonated water. And it's fun. What I love, Deborah wrote a very charming piece about liking dirty soda. But what I loved about this couple that has built the fountain is that they have all kinds of community building activities. Yeah. They're right near a bus stop, so lots of school kids come after. They have events from music and movie Mondays with theme menus to community fundraisers. They post a drink on social media. Everyone comes in and orders it. That's just fantastic. So any place that's building community, even if it's with Marjorie's favorite high fructose corn syrup, is a place I'll support.
And enjoy it. I mean, just don't, as you said, don't have too much. By the way, Hannah, our coworker, reminds me when I was a little fat kid, I was nicknamed, Marjorie finds this relatively amusing. My friends would call me a round mound of sound, which is...
Mound of sound.
They did. And
oh,
you know
poor
why?
Jim.
Because I was a round mound. I don't know about of sound.
Well, you're the one that told me your mother had to roll you to school.
She did.
I couldn't believe that was
true.
true.
And she rolled me back
but
after.
Jim said that's what happened. She rolled him to and rolled him back.
Yeah, Corby's enjoying this as much as you do. You know what that's called? Sadism, you two. That's what you two are. Hey, Corby, it's wonderful to see you as always.
Thank you.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Corby
you, Corby.
Kummer.
We've been speaking with our food policy analyst, multiple James Beard Award winner Corby Kummer, Executive Director of the Food and Society Policy Program at the Aspen Institute, Senior Editor at The Atlantic, a Senior Lecturer at Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition, Science, and Policy. Corby, thank you. The show continues here in Boston, but we say goodbye to those of you listening up at NEPM, and thanks for tuning in. You can tune into the fabulous 413 again, starting at 3 this afternoon, coming after the new news on 89.7. Going to be joined by former Sheriff Andrea Cabral and Jeffrey Epstein, Brown University genocide researcher Omer Bartov on what is going on in Gaza, our boss, GBH CEO Susan Goldberg, talking about our funds getting slashed, and Shirley Leung. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's not over yet. More smart conversation about community issues up ahead with Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan on Boston Public Radio, right after a news update from NPR. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Knowing Nature, Stories of the Boreal Forest. Captivating photos and interactive displays take visitors inside a vast wilderness. Opens July 26th. PEM.org. An unlikely group of spies go behind enemy lines to turn the tide in America's fight for independence. Catch a new episode of Turn, Washington's Spies, tonight at 9 on GBH 44.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on Hour 2 of BPR. Massachusetts Public Safety Secretary Andrea Cabral about the ongoing bar advocates strike in the Commonwealth and why it means more criminal cases, some quite serious, are getting thrown out of court. Plus the latest on Trump and child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and his facilitator and girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then Omer Bartov is the Dean's Professor of Holocaust and Genocide Studies at Brown University. He joins us to discuss his view that Israel's ongoing actions in Gaza does constitute genocide. Then GBH CEO Susan Goldberg stops by the studio to update us on the impacts of losing federal funds. It's all next on the second hour of BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The quest for information about Jeffrey Epstein is increasingly focusing on the late financier's close associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, the only person serving time in prison in connection with the sex trafficking investigation into Epstein. Members of Congress want her subpoenaed. The DOJ also wants answers. NPR's Domenico Montanaro reports on the politics surrounding GOP and Democratic pressure on the Trump White House to release everything the government has on Epstein, all amplified by a Wall Street Journal story.
The story says that Attorney General Pam Bondi and her deputy, who told the president his name was in the files multiple times, said they felt that those files contained, quote, unverified hearsay. That might help explain how Trump has talked about this for more than a year. Here he was last week in the Oval Office when asked about whether he wants Bondi to release all of the files.
Whatever's credible, she can release. If a document is credible, if a document's there that is credible, she can release. I think it's good.
NPR's Domenico Montanaro filed that story. Columbia University will pay more than $200 million to the federal government to resolve multiple federal investigations. The settlement will restore access to billions of dollars in federal funding. That includes unfreezing grants and opening opportunities for future research. Here's NPR's Alyssa Nadwarny.
The university's acting president, Claire Shipman, released some of the details of the agreement in a statement, which stems from allegations by the Trump administration that the school fostered anti-Semitism on campus. Shipman said the settlement would address concerns about admissions and hiring, though she didn't provide details. And future disputes will go to an independent monitor and arbitrator, functioning as neutral third parties. She did make it very clear in her statement that Columbia will retain control over its academic and operational decisions. On Truth Social, President Trump thanked Columbia for, quote, agreeing to do what is right. He went on to say that settlements with other higher education institutions are upcoming. Alyssa Nadwarny, NPR News.
Investors are processing two very different reports from big tech companies as Tesla stock plummets and Google soars. NPR's Maria Aspen with more.
Tesla's rocky year is getting worse. Elon Musk's electric car maker says its quarterly profits dropped 16% as sales continue to fall. It was Tesla's first earnings report since Musk left his controversial role in the federal government. But Google is having a much better year. Parent company Alphabet reported profit and revenue that beat analysts' expectations. Now it's planning to spend an additional $10 billion this year on capital expenditures, including AI.
That's NPR's Maria Aspen reporting. The Dow is down 171 points. The S&P has gained 14. The NASDAQ is up 44. It's NPR News.
Good afternoon from the GBH Radio Newsroom. I'm Henry Santoro. Some college leaders and Harvard professors are questioning Columbia University's $200 million deal with the Trump administration. From our higher ed desk, GBH's Kirk Carapezza reports that the agreement meant to mollify the administration is being called a turning point for American academia.
Some in higher ed say the deal upends a long-standing tradition of academic freedom and institutional autonomy. Harvard professor Ryan Enos calls it a watershed moment for American civil society and democracy, and not in a good way.
What we see here is not regulation by legislation or by bureaucratic rulemaking, but regulation by extortion through private dealings with the President of the United States. And in a democratic society, that's not the way things are supposed to be done.
But not everyone is critical. As Harvard faces its own fight with the Trump administration, some faculty say they wish their school would cut a deal too. Kirk Carapezza, GBH News.
The Dropkick Murphys are proving yet again that what they say what they mean, and they mean what they say. The band has pulled out of the Punk in the Park Festival because the festival organizer had donated to Donald Trump. Dropkick Murphy said in an Instagram post yesterday that Brouhaha Productions, the monetary contributions to the Trump campaign, go against the band's long-standing opposition to the president and his policies. Punk in the Park has upcoming stops in Worcester, San Pedro, California, Portland, Oregon, San Francisco, and Chandler, Arizona. The band says thanks for your understanding on this matter. Even the promoter, Cameron Collins, says he hasn't been pleased with many of the current president's viewpoints, opinions, and policies, and says Punk in the Park has not and will not donate proceeds to any political party. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We'll be back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow with Congressman Jake Auchincloss and live Celtic music and more. Hello, Jim.
And later in this hour, Omer Bartov, who's a professor at Brown University, wrote a piece in the New York Times getting a lot of talk. I'm a genocide scholar. I know it when I see it. He'll join us at the bottom of the hour. And then our boss, Susan Goldberg, to talk about the nightmare visited on Corporation for Public Broadcasting, NPR and PBS, by Congress and the Trump administration. My characterization, by the way. We're joined now on Zoom by Andrea Cabral. She's a former sheriff of Suffolk County, former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety. She joins us weekly. Hi, Andrea.
Hello, Jim. Hi, Marjorie.
Hi. Great to talk to you, Andrea, as always. So this situation with the bar advocates, who represent about 80% of indigent clients, they're not taking any clients right now because they're complaining about their pay, and it's getting to the point where dozens and dozens of people, some of whom have committed or allegedly committed violent crimes, or their cases are being dismissed. What do you see as a resolution here?
Well, they should have simply paid the bar advocates.
Yeah.
The legislature.
Been able to find the money. I mean, this story just kind of baffles me because what I read in the paper today, the pushback from the legislature was they waited too long to come to us. I know for a fact, bar advocates and the public defenders every year ask for more money. You can probably go back a decade just in the Globe and find stories about the bar advocates talking about asking the legislature for more money, comparing the salaries in Massachusetts to those of other states. There have been lots and lots of those kinds of stories. So this isn't an issue that dropped out of the sky. I mean, the way I see it, in my perspective, comes from being a former prosecutor. And, prosecutors are paid better now. But certainly when I was a prosecutor, they were paid next to nothing, especially when I first started. And that's because the legislature and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts can afford to rely on them. They make a calculated risk, right? We're going to rely on them to continue to do the right thing, to continue to show up to work and do a good job, regardless of how we treat them. And they don't really have a union, right? Prosecutors didn't have a union. They serve at the pleasure of the DA. defenders don't have a union, bar advocates don't have a union. So there's no, sort of larger political price to pay for continuing to sort of back burner them. I think the legislature didn't think the bar advocates would actually walk away from the job. And now they're stuck with the fact that they finally got fed up and they walked away from the job and cases are being dismissed. And now they're at the 11th hour trying to find this money for the raise.
Well,
if they're actually trying.
I was just going to say that. You mentioned that it's this comes up all the time, so they know. The Globe story says concretely that the bar advocates reach out to the legislative leaders in February, so they had plenty of time. Here's Governor Healy speaking to, I think it was Wednesday, I'm sorry, speaking to reporters at the State House, urging these bar advocates to end their work stoppage.
My hope is that we see a resolution very, very quickly. And in the meantime, I'd like to see lawyers back in court representing defendants.
I hear that, but with all due respect to the governor, if they went back to doing it, they'd never get an increase. And we should have added, by the way, all the data shows, this is beyond dispute, these lawyers who are providing this service, for the most part, out of the goodness of their heart, make roughly half per hour.
It's bad.
What lawyers like them in surrounding states
because
make.
$65 an hour.
And even if their wages were doubled, which they won't be, but the legislature did something, they're still making less than the going rate for lawyers in the private sector. But the fact that the legislature isn't doing this it's a disgrace. It is a total and complete disgrace.
Well, what I was going to ask you, Andrea, is it says in this Globe story, and I assume that they're correct, that once these cases are dismissed, there's no conditions of release. For example, if you were a alleged violent criminal, you might get a GPS thing around your ankle or something so that you couldn't go beat up the woman you just beat up or your girlfriend or whatever it is. They can't do that? They're released with
the case is gone.
No, nothing.
Well, no, the case is dismissed without prejudice. The only recourse is for the DA's office to bring it back if at some point, assuming that there are lawyers to represent defendants. But if there's no case before the court, there's no condition.
Nothing.
It's not like the person has been arraigned and the case is still pending and you can attach conditions of release while a case is still pending. There's literally no case once it's been dismissed.
So if you are accused of murdering somebody, I assume that you're not going to get let out in that situation, or are you?
Well, my suspicion is, my strong suspicion, although, I don't say anything's impossible at this point. My strong suspicion is that they would pull out all the stops to find some attorney.
Yeah, they were walking around the hall.
Represent that person. But I mean, here's what ultimately, if they wait long enough, ultimately, one or more of the people who has been released will reoffend. I mean, my money is on the domestic violence defendants.
Yeah, exactly.
Because those tend to be, situations where the defendant is not thinking about what happens if I go to jail. Domestic violence cases are different. And, there'll be more victims. It'll make the paper. It may spur the legislature to act. That shouldn't be necessary. And the sort of perversity here is that if someone or a group of people who were victimized as a result of these defendants being let out were to sue the legislature for failing to fund the bar advocates, they would enjoy qualified immunity for that and would not be subject to a civil suit for failing to fund, a basic right that people are entitled to, fund the personnel to provide a basic right that people are entitled to, so cases could proceed. They're just not going to.
They're too busy funding skating rinks in their home districts to deal with this.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on this and end up down that deep hole. I just want to mention one aspect of this Ghislaine Maxwell thing. For those who don't know, the DOJ is now going to meet with her, I think, in Florida. The absurdity that the line is, we're going to get information from her. She'll testify. She's already a convicted liar and facilitator. And the notion she's going to do anything if she doesn't take the Fifth Amendment other than clear Trump so she gets a pardon is ridiculous. That's not what I want to talk about. I have never heard in my life of an attorney general of the United States who goes to the president of the United States as if he's her client and says, oh, by the way, I want you to know you're mentioned in the documents that we're looking into?
Multiple times.
And by the way, that was missing in most of yesterday's story, where it's reported 2 months ago, Pam Bondi told Trump that he was included in the Epstein files, and then of course Trump said 2 days ago, "Oh no, she never told me that." Have you ever heard of an attorney general, at least admitting that they alerted the president of the United States to a fact like this in an investigation?
But the point you're missing, Jim, is that she is his attorney.
Well, that's a very
he did represent him.
That is a very good.
Blanche, who is quoted in the story, is the one who's sort of saying we're going to go down and talk to
number
Elaine
2 in the
Maxwell.
AG's office. Yeah.
Another one that is his attorney, as is Emil Bolt. I mean, on top of the perversity that you just described, is the perversity that they are literally, openly, brazenly, nakedly while being paid with taxpayers' money to lead the Justice Department. The Justice Department, I said this on when I think I might have said it when I was hosting a couple of days ago, is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Trump organization.
It is.
We have an entire, I mean, all of the federal agencies are at this point, but with the Justice Department, it is particularly acute. And you're absolutely right, Jim. This is to get her in front of that congressional committee so that she clears Trump and they reduce her sentence. It's Eric Adams on steroids. You do something for us and we will let you go. And she will be absolutely willing to do that, because you're absolutely right. Other than that scenario, she would take the Fifth Amendment. She wouldn't speak to anybody about anything. She'd take the Fifth Amendment. Her appeals are still pending.
Also, there could be further charges, obviously, on different things.
Right. That's why she takes it right.
Yeah.
And, there's so many things that are horrible that are happening, the Trump administration ignoring court orders, et cetera. But it's very scary when you hear these reports about the Justice Department. Basically, you do what the president wants you to do in the Justice Department, or you lose your job. So these lawyers are either quitting or they're asked to lie in court, and they're lying. And it's a really scary...
Or they're fired, like Comey's daughter.
Yeah, or the guy
who was involved in the Epstein case.
Yes, or the guy that told the truth about Obreco Garcia, that he should not have gone to El Salvador. They told him to say, "You got to make him look like he's a gang member," and when he wasn't, and the lawyers wouldn't do it, and he quit. And that's what you're up against. Anyway, speaking of having to do with immigration, there's been a gutting of the immigration judges under the Trump administration. Why is this a problem?
Well, it's part of the systemic, I talk about this all the time, the systemic dismantling of federal government as a pathway to dismantling democracy. The entire immigration court system, and the immigration court system is due process, right? That is the process by which we determine who stays in the country and who does not. The Trump administration does not want that process and that system to exist so that they can remove people at will to countries they're from, to countries they're not from, to countries where they'll be tortured and killed and ultimately essentially disposed of. But they don't want there to be any sort of redress for anything like that. So you dismantle the entire system that's designed to provide process for that. So immigration judges have been fired in droves. They've either been fired or they've been pressured to go. And the Globe has a very good story done by Juliana McDonnell and Nieto Del Rio. It profiles George Pappas, who was an immigration judge, still in his probationary period, was on the verge of being appointed permanently. I think you're on probation for 2 years. Then you usually get a permanent appointment in Chelmsford. And they profile him, but they also talk about others who are similarly situated. And that's essentially what it is. On the one hand, he's got this massive deportation effort of 3,000 immigrants a day. It doesn't make a difference if you're undocumented, a citizen, documented here legally, temporary protected status, seeking asylum. Doesn't make a difference. They're just sweeping people up left and right. And they purposely do not want there to be enough judges to hear these cases, because judges would rule against them. If they deport you from the country altogether, right? And you're in the middle of a process and there's nobody to hear your case, you just stay deported, right? They don't have to worry about you taking advantage of a process and either making your way back or getting your citizenship, because they've already taken you out of the country, and they defy court orders to take plane loads of people and bus loads of people out of the country, regardless of whether or not judges tell them not to. And now they've dismantled the very system that's designed to give those people redress when they've been wrongfully removed from the country.
You know, Andrea Cabral, I know you're not in the academic world, but a quick reaction. I was watching CNN this morning early, and Claire Shipman, a former news person actually at ABC,
TV person,
is now the interim president of Colombia, and was trying to explain how the deal they cut to pay $200 million to the federal government was not capitulation, not a renunciation of academic freedom. I, as someone who went to college, but I'm not in the college world, see it as troubling a deal with a guy who is wildly unlikely not to honor it, like he doesn't honor any other deals. What's your reaction as sort of a layperson who I assume cares about issues like academic freedom?
It's extortion, and they've capitulated to extortion and capitulated to blackmail. Because you see it every day. There's a news story about some other part of the federal government going after Harvard. That's what Colombia is trying to avoid. And to your point, you're absolutely right. Trying to avoid a bully who beats you up and takes your lunch money every single day never staves off that beating, right? He or she may find somebody else to pick on for a short period of time. They're going to make their way back to you because you're a willing victim. And Columbia should be ashamed, just like those law firms and any other academic. This is amazing. So federal grant money that should go to them anyway, they're going to pay $200 million in order to get a few more $100 million back in federal money, right? It's like they tell you when you're scammed on text by the IRS, where they say, you've got a problem. Give us a call. If you pay us right now, we won't go after you for your taxes. They go, the IRS never asks you for money. This is a federal administration that literally asks you for money. Why do they need it? Because they've got to pay off what they're going to explode the deficit by when they give the tax cuts to the rich. So Colombia is basically going to put $200 million in the general fund to stave off the deficit. And basically, Colombia hasn't done anything that the federal government should be involved in at this level. They basically extorted them for $200 million, and Colombia said okay, and they're going to pay it with the tuition that they get from kids and their parents.
And while they think they're not only going to get their $400 million that was withheld and more future research money, Trump next week or next month or the following week is going to say, you didn't discipline that protester adequately, who's anti-Semitic. And by the way, I had dinner with a neo-Nazi last night. So we're going to stop all your funding.
And they're also going to appoint this vice provost to oversee the Middle Eastern Studies Division. I can't imagine how that's going to work.
By the way, for whatever it's worth, I'm sorry, God, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say the one thing I hope happens is that if Harvard was weakening at all, they should take a look at what Columbia is capitulating and say, look, I don't care what it takes. We are going to fight you to the end.
Yeah, Andrea, they're getting a lot of praise over there at Harvard. Yesterday, they eliminated their Office of Equity, Diversion, and Inclusion, and now call it the Office for Community and Campus Life. Now, they're getting all this praise for standing up to Trump. I would say that is not exactly standing up to the president.
I'm not praising them. I'm not praising them at all. You didn't hear a word of praise from me. What I'm saying is I hope that they can see from what Colombia is agreeing to, see the level at which they're being targeted. And if you think you're going to get away with anything less, you're nuts.
Okay, we only have a minute left, and I need your judgment on something. I wasn't clear what my position on this nominee for a federal office was, and I thought if you can quickly just read you his qualifications from the Washington Post and tell you if you think he should be confirmed by the Senate. He's 30 years old. He has no experience in government. He said that Vladimir Putin was standing up for traditional Christianity and Western values. He also said that exceptional white men built Western civilization and are the ones most capable of appreciating the fruits of their heritage. He said the descendants of slaves should pay reparations to slave owners, not the other way around. He said on October 7th, that the Hamas attack was another psyop to distract Americans from celebrating Columbus Day. And he thinks January 6th should be a national holiday. So I guess my quick question to you, we're almost out of time, is he the appropriate candidate to head the Office of Special Counsel, and should he be confirmed by the Senate? Is there any reason he shouldn't be?
I'm shocked. I hadn't heard about this at all.
Paul Ingracia. Paul Ingracia, 30 years old.
30 years old.
Law school graduate in 2021. No government experience, but that is his resume. What do you think?
Of course, it doesn't. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. It doesn't mean that it's not shocking. Just the brazenness of this. But this is he typifies the Trump administration. And it's very intentional. It is very intentional. They're doing it because they don't think there are going to be any consequences. And up till now, they've been absolutely right. And the Senate will confirm him because that unholy group of poltroons, they have absolutely abdicated all of their authority as the most important branch of government to the executive branch. So they'll confirm it.
I'm looking up poltroons.
I know it's not good.
A poltroon is among the most craven of cowards. It's a very old word, but
good.
Thank you.
That's
You're
it.
an old school kind of gal.
I love it.
Early craven, worthless, irredeemable coward, a quisling. Yeah.
Former Secretary of Public Safety Andrea Cabral. Thanks for your time.
Thank you,
Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea.
To talk to you as
Watch
always.
out for those poltroons. That's all I have to say.
I know a lot of poltroons, by the way.
We've been talking with former Suffolk County Sheriff and Secretary of Public Safety in Massachusetts, Andrea Cabral. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Can you work poltroon into a sentence, Marjorie? Or
I don't think I can work into a sentence. But coming after a quick break, we're going to talk with Brown University genocide and Holocaust scholar Omer Bartov. He joins us. I'm Marjorie Egan. You're Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Trusted, local news.
Harvard says it's extending its hiring freeze as uncertainty continues over the future of the university's federal funding.
GBH News.
Massachusetts is among more than a dozen states suing the Trump administration over its decision to cut FEMA funding for natural disaster prevention.
Here for what matters to you.
Worcester is considering ways to address its shortage of supermarkets.
GBH 89.7. Online at gbhnews.org.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Cape Playhouse in Dennis Village. Audiences can experience the lavish elegance and mystery of Anastasia the Musical, now playing. Tickets at capeplayhouse.com. And Cornerstone at Canton, an assisted living community with services designed to help seniors age in place, offering respite and trial stay options to help during recovery or when exploring new living arrangements. More at cornerstonecanton.com.
Welcome back to BPR. I'm Jim Browdy. She is Marjorie Egan. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow. And in about 20 minutes, our boss, Susan Goldberg, the CEO, will join us to discuss the impact of what Congress and the president did to public media about a week ago. Not surprisingly, this headline in the New York Times provoked a huge amount of response. The headline was, "I'm a genocide scholar. I know it when I see it." That's a case made by Brown University's Omer Bartov about Israel's actions in Gaza, writing, quote, "My inescapable conclusion has become that Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinian people." Bartov is a Holocaust and genocide studies scholar at Brown, himself born in Israel, where he grew up in a Zionist home, served in the IDF as a soldier and officer. He joins us now via Zoom. Omer Bartov, we really appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much as well for joining us. So let's start with, how do you define genocide?
So genocide is defined by the UN Convention of 1948 as actions carried out with the intent to destroy a particular group, could be national, ethnic, racial, religious, in whole or in part, as such. That's the main definition. So genocide is not about killing everyone. It's about trying to destroy a group as a group.
Omer Bartov, virtually every moral, decent human obviously that doesn't include Netanyahu and Trump, agree that these mass killings in Gaza are an atrocity. Why does it matter if what has occurred is classified as a genocide? What's the consequence of that?
Well, it matters because most of the countries in the world are signatories to the Genocide Convention. And if you're a signatory to the Genocide Convention, that means that if you see that a genocide is about to happen, you're duty-bound to try and stop it. If it is happening, you certainly should stop it. And after it happens, you have to bring to account, you have to punish those who carried it out. So it's an obligation by the international community to do something about it. That's why there's such a law. It's also important because, of course, any state and individuals connected to that state who are found guilty of genocide have to pay a high price. States can be subjected to various international sanctions, and individuals can be brought to the International Criminal Court and end up in jail.
You know, you wrote a piece, I think it was shortly after October 7th, I know it was. I think it was in the New York Times, in which you said that you didn't believe genocide was taking place in Gaza. What specifically caused you to change your mind?
So, yeah, you wrote that in the New York Times in November, early November 2023. And I said there were apparently war crimes and crimes against humanity. I had not yet been convinced that this amounted to genocide. For genocide, you need to show two things. You need to show an intent to destroy the group, and you need to show that actions are carried out consistent with that intent. And by May of 2024, it appeared to me that the war goals that had been declared by Israel as the desire to destroy Hamas and to release the 250 hostages that were held by Hamas were not the actual war goal that Israel was trying to implement. The war goal, in fact, was to make Gaza uninhabitable. And you could see a pattern of operations, which is part of how you show that genocide is happening, a pattern of operations whose goal was to destroy everything that was there, to destroy buildings, houses, mosques, schools, universities, parks, water plants, whatever was standing there. That's an ongoing operation. By now, 70% of the buildings in the Gaza Strip have either been destroyed or damaged, 90% of the schools. And the population has largely been pushed to the southernmost part of Gaza with the intent, as we see now, with starvation policies going on, and with the hope and intent to remove them entirely from the Strip.
And if they're removed entirely from the Strip, then I guess that's the end of Palestinians living there, or a two-state solution, or if you get rid of the people and they can't live there anymore, what happens?
Well, what the current government wants, of course, is to implement this also eventually in the West Bank. There's already creeping ethnic cleansing in the West Bank. The goal is to have the land without the people who live on it, and to settle it by Jewish settlers. You got a little you got a lot of pushback. Some of it came from a writer, Bret Stephens, in the New York Times. Indulge me for a second so our listeners can hear what he had to say. He said there's a glaring dissonance to the charge that Israel's committing genocide in Gaza. If the Israeli government's intentions and actions are truly genocidal, if it is so malevolent that it's committed to annihilation of Gazans, why hasn't it been more methodical, more deadly? Why not hundreds of thousands of deaths as opposed to 60,000? That Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry, which does not distinguish between combatant and civilian deaths, has cited so far in nearly 2 years of war. So what do you say to that? So, first of all, morally or ethically, to say that 60,000 and the estimates run up to 100,000, which is about 5% of the population, is, well, it's not enough. If it were 1 million, it would be okay. Then we could call it genocide. Let's wait and see. So just on that level, it's a very strange argument. But beyond that, as I said before, the Genocide Convention does not talk about killing all the people before you say it's genocide, or a vast proportion of them. What it talks about is destroying that group as a group. So you kill people with the goal of destroying the group as such. And what we see has to this the vast numbers of people who have died because they have no hospital care, the vast number of children, quite apart from the 17,000 children who have died, and likely more by now, but the vast number of children who will be debilitated for the rest of their lives because of the conditions that they have been subjected to, of lack of food, of trauma, of just horrible humanitarian conditions. That is what you can adjudicate as part of a genocidal process where part of it is killing people, part of it is creating conditions not conducive to their survival, part of it is making sure that they will never be able to reconstitute themselves as a group by destroying everything that was there to maintain their health, their culture, their education, and their collective identity, and eventually removing them altogether to various countries. Now the countries being talked about are Indonesia, Libya, and Ethiopia, to which those people will be removed. Obviously, the goal is they'll never be able to be a group again.
We're talking to Omer Bartov from Brown, his piece in the New York Times. I'm a genocide scholar. I know it when I see it. You said earlier in this conversation, Omer, that, you know, the avowed purpose of Israel's actions by their leaders is to eradicate Hamas, but then you laid out the case that they've gone well beyond that. How do you respond to the notion that Hamas is sort of brilliantly so interwoven, their physical presence into the civilian population, that if Israel's goal legitimately is to get rid of Hamas, that they have no choice but to exact this horrible human toll?
Well, look, I mean, I'll say two things. First of all, people don't quite realize that until October 7th, Hamas was considered by the Israeli far right and by Netanyahu himself as an asset. They actually spoke about it that way, because when you have Hamas there, then you can say these people are, beyond the pale, and therefore we can't negotiate with the Palestinians. We just have to manage the occupation. That policy exploded, of course, on October 7th. Now, it is true that Hamas has used all the millions of dollars that were handed it over by Israel, money coming from Qatar, and handed over by Netanyahu to build tunnels. And they build them in where they build them because Gaza is also one of the most densely populated place in the world. There was no other place for them to operate from. They were there. But if your conclusion is, as Netanyahu says, we need absolute victory, what does absolute victory over Hamas mean? Because Hamas is no longer an organized military. The war in Gaza as a war ended in the summer of 2024. Since then, the IDF has engaged mostly in demolition, not in fighting. So what does it mean? It means it appears that you have to destroy Gaza altogether, house by house. There are now hundreds of bulldozers doing exactly that in Gaza. People brought in from Israel with heavy equipment, being well paid by the house, to destroy all the buildings there. If that is the conclusion, even if you say that what Hamas carried out, which of course it was a war crime, it was a crime against humanity, the massacre of 800 civilians. If your response to that is to carry out genocide in Gaza, if you respond to massacre by genocide, then I think that is probably not the best or the right or the legal policy to carry out. What Israel needed to do and could have done is to say, we have to fight against Hamas, and we want to work together with the population in Gaza to remove Hamas and create a different kind of condition in the Gaza Strip so that we can work together with the population, not destroy the entire Strip, including the 2 million people who live there.
You know, there's also, as you know, been President Trump is going after colleges, including yours at Brown, Harvard, Columbia, et cetera, saying everybody's anti-Semitic. There's something called Project 2025 in the United States, a kind of blueprint for Trump's second term, which talks about, it seems to me, sort of, you can't be pro-Palestinian. It seems to me we want to get rid of Palestine, and there's this religious evangelical thing, this overtone there. But a lot of people that should be more outspoken about what's going on in Gaza aren't, because of charges of anti-Semitism. What do you think?
Well, correct. I mean, there's been a concerted effort to silence people. First, it was on campuses last spring to intimidate people, both by calling them anti-Semitic for protesting against what was clearly an outrage, carried out, by the way, with dollars paid by U.S. taxpayers. The bombs being dropped are American-made. The airplanes dropping the bombs are American-made. So there was an attempt to shut that down by allegations of anti-Semitism and by bringing in the police. And many people have indeed been intimidated. To my mind, one danger of doing that is that, of course, it was used to silence protests about Gaza. But when you use allegations of anti-Semitism to shut down speech, what you're actually trying to do is a kind of strange type of McCarthyism by using allegations of anti-Semitism. Yeah. And one result of that will be, of course, a rise in anti-Semitism, because there will be a sense that it's, who is behind all this trying to shut people up? Who are those people who are pulling the wires? That it's sort of attempt to use anti-Semitism as a cudgel is the best way to give it license.
By the way, you know this better than we, but critics of yours have used anti-Semitism as a cudgel against you, saying you're essentially not only anti-Semitic, but challenging Israel's legitimacy. You're smiling as I say that, Omer Bartov. Why the smile?
Yes, look, I mean, people can call me whatever they like. I've not only been called the Israeli ambassador to Germany, said that I was both an anti-Semitic Israeli and a self-hating Jew. So I ended up being described as both. I'm not interested in these sort of allegations. One can support the state of Israel. I happen to be a supporter of the state of Israel. I'm not an anti-Zionist. As you said, I served in the army for 4 years and then years more in reserve service. But the kind of state that it has become, the kind of Zionism that Israel has now as a state ideology, which is Jewish supremacist, which is violent and militaristic and expansionist and has become now also genocidal, I can't support that. And anyone who wants to support that in the name of supporting Jews, I think, is quite wrong.
How are in history, this debate that you helped, I guess, reignite is going to go on for a while. How are the actions of both Donald Trump and Joe Biden in support of Israel through all this going to be judged, Omer?
Look, I mean, when I wrote that first op-ed in the New York Times in November 2023, I was hoping that somebody in the administration would pay attention. This could have been stopped by President Biden in November or December 2023. He could have told Netanyahu, you have 2 weeks to wrap it up, and then you're on your own if you don't. And Israel could not have continued this without constant American support, military, economic, and diplomatic, of course, giving it, a diplomatic Iron Dome in the Security Council. So both administrations are deeply complicit in what is happening there now, and this will remain part of a stain on American policy for a long time to come.
What should, in your view, President Trump do now to ameliorate this situation?
The first thing to do, the most urgent thing to do, is to stop, first of all, because the killing and dying there is just heartbreaking. I've been studying war and genocide and the Holocaust for all of my career, and I can't watch these images anymore. Yeah. It's just heartbreaking. First of all, to stop, and then there has to be a change in the entire paradigm. There are 7 million Jews and 7 million Palestinians living between the river and the sea. Nobody's going away. They cannot solve their problem with guns. It has to be a political process. That has to start. There are no dynamics inside Israel to do that. It can only start from the outside. And that is the United States that plays the most important role, if it chooses to start this process.
When you say stop, do you mean stop supplying the weaponry or stop what?
stop, first of all, the operations in Gaza.
Okay.
Just stop it. Just have a ceasefire, first of all.
I'm sorry, Marty.
I was just going to say, in preparation for talking to you today, I was asking our staff to find stories about what the people in Israel are doing about what's going on in Gaza, because we are seeing babies that are dying, starvation spreading throughout these little children with just bones. And I was surprised to learn, I probably should have known this, but I didn't, that the Israeli media hardly reports on what's happening in Gaza. And some of these Israelis that they quoted in these stories didn't seem to know what was going on in Gaza. They had a demonstration of a few hundred people. I thought it was going to be thousands after the huge demonstrations about the Supreme Court there. But at least some are claiming ignorance. Do you buy it?
Well, I mean, I watch Israeli TV news every day just to see what is being reported there. If you watch that, you wouldn't know what kind of horror is happening in Gaza. You would see only our heroic soldiers who are killed by terrorists. That's the only thing you would see. But of course, you can, if you choose to. Everybody has social media. Everybody can watch and find out exactly what's going on. So much of the public chooses not to know and has been incredibly indifferent to the mass killing in Gaza. So even many of the demonstrations, there are many people who want to not to have Netanyahu in power. There are many people who want the war to finally stop. It's been also quite a hardship for the Israeli public. There are hundreds of reservists who are serving hundreds of days there. But they don't care much about what's happening to Palestinians.
Is that just why? Is that just racism, or what is it?
I would say it's a combination of two factors to simplify. One is that Israel has occupied millions of Palestinians for scores of years, for almost 6 decades. And that creates a kind of dehumanization of the other side. You just don't think of them as the same kind of people having the same right to have rights. Okay. The second is the shock of October 7th, the attack, which was totally shocking to Israelis, and the desire to wreak vengeance.
Omer Bartov, last thing from me, whether people agree with you through the years that what we have seen is genocide or disagree with you, what does Israel's behavior mean for the future of their place in the world community, in your judgment?
Well, look, I think, first of all, that the stain of what happened, of that destruction, will not go away, and not for this generation and not for the next. What the crimes that were carried out in the name of Israeli citizens will remain a stain for a long time to come. But in terms of what will happen, I think there are two options. One is that Israel will be allowed to continue this, and it will become a full-blown apartheid state with an authoritarian regime that would be violent not only against occupied Palestinians and Palestinian citizens of Israel, but increasingly, as it is already, against its own opponents within the Jewish Israeli citizens. And as such, I don't think that it will be able to survive for very long. It will eventually implode. How long that will take, I don't know, but I think it will be distanced increasingly from the international community, become increasingly isolated, and even Jewish communities around the world will want to distance themselves from it, in part because a state like that, which claims to be the representative of Jews around the world, whether they agree with that or not, will be one main cause for the rise of anti-Semitism around the world.
Omer Bartov, we really appreciate your time. I hope you'll join us again. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very, very much, and thank you for your piece and all your good work. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Holocaust and Genocide Studies scholar at Brown University, Omer Bartov, and again, we very much appreciate his time. Coming up after this quick break, GBH's CEO and President Susan Goldberg joins us on the defunding of PBS and NPR. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Arun Rolfe. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, we'll hear what some Harvard faculty have to say about Columbia's deal with the Trump administration. Researchers have discovered a new and cleaner method for recycling batteries. And the summer crowds didn't show up, but neither did the staff. What Doge cuts mean for the Glacier National Park in Montana. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Mass General Brigham. Their leading heart and vascular specialists are committed to providing breakthrough care to patients with cutting-edge research and innovative treatments. Learn more at massgeneralbrigham.org/heart. And Maine Maritime Museum in Bath, offering Burnt Island Lighthouse adventure cruises. Visitors can explore a historic lighthouse on a pristine island off the coast of Maine. MaineMaritimeMuseum.org.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're back at the library tomorrow. A little less than a week ago, Congress, actually I shouldn't say Congress, Republicans voted to claw back billions of dollars in federal funding, including $1.1 billion for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. The impact of that clawback on NPR and PBS, the defunding, will ripple across those networks over the next few months are already being felt here at GBH. Joining us now to discuss the impacts, not just here but beyond, is our boss, Susan Goldberg, President and CEO of GBH. Susan, thanks so much for coming by.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. So this is tough, very tough times. American Experience, one of their favorite shows. We just had this great show about Polaroid.
Yeah, it was great.
We talked to them a couple of months ago, and the great thing that they did on busing in Boston back in the 70s. So 13 employees have been laid off. So what is the impact of this cancellation of all this money?
Well, I do think you're going to see, this ripple out across the public media system. And it's going to take a while for us to fully understand the impact because public media is such an interconnected business, right? So CPB gives money to us, to PBS, to NPR, and to all those stations out there. Those stations in turn pay dues. Let's just talk about the PBS side. Pay dues to PBS. And as one of the largest maker of content for PBS gives us tens of millions of dollars every year to help create that content. But if PBS is getting a lot less from those stations because they're not getting that federal money, there's sort of a snowball rolling down a hill impact. So we don't know what the ultimate impact will be on us. We know that as a floor, we've lost 8% of our money.
But as you say, I'm really glad you brought up the other point. People in my world have memorized the 8% figure and said, well, it's bad. It's nothing next to that Alaska station's losing 70%, which of course is true. But as you say, so many other stations are dependent upon the work that's produced in this building and across the street. Are they even going to be able to afford to license this stuff, which may cause that 8% to grow dramatically, right?
Well, so for us, 8% is the floor. We don't know exactly where the ceiling is because we don't know what will happen with PBS and how much less money they have for us. So the less PBS has, the less we'll have.
Was there any attempt, this was not reported on, but I find it hard to believe that there was nothing like this. Was there any attempt by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to negotiate with congressional leaders or with the Trump administration I don't mean in an unprincipled way, a la at least what we think Columbia arrived at yesterday, but to see if any compromise could be reached on this? Was there such a thing?
I don't know exactly what CPB itself did. I do know there was a huge attempt by the advocacy arm for public media. It's called APTS, America's Public Television Stations, to get people to reach out to call Congress, to look at other things, you know.
But that's like traditional lobbying. I mean a deal. And I don't mean a deal in a pejorative way. Something that caused a significant percentage of that funding
to be preserved. You could let Pam Bondi come run a few stations or something like that.
No, I'm serious. Were there any of those discussions or no?
I don't know that. But what I do know is there were a lot of scenarios that we planned for, right? This was I have to say it, I'm not trying to be negative, but the actual worst scenario, right? Total defunding of 2 full years, right? We had talked among ourselves, maybe they'll just defund 1 year, or maybe it would just be aimed at NPR instead of at PBS. And there were all kinds of scenarios we looked at. But this is actually the worst case scenario, the full thing, and the funding actually stops on October 1st.
Talking to Susan Goldberg, who's the president and CEO of GBH.
You know, I read a story this morning in preparation for talking to you about the smaller public radio stations around Massachusetts. I didn't even know. I knew about MV. What do they call it? MVY on Martha's Vineyard, WMVY. They get a lot of money through the Corporation of Public Broadcasting. It's 10% of their budget there. That's a great little station. There's some Provincetown stations. Did you know about this, Jim?
I did.
Yeah, the Provincetown station was counting on CBB funding for 20% of its budget. So these places are in this little small jazz-focused station, WICN, up in Worcester. They get 18% of their budget. So these places are in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, look, generally speaking, it's a little broad brush, but generally speaking, the smaller the place, the higher percentage of their budget came from the CPB. So there is this huge ripple effect. But I don't want to diminish really the impact on us either, right? So big places like us, we're the largest producer of content for PBS. We're an NPR partner. We have a music station. We do all of this stuff. So we are deeply affected by this
like
as well.
Nova, Frontline,
right.
All that stuff comes from us.
You know, Marjorie and I got a lot of texts the other day when people were driving down the turnpike who maybe didn't know, or maybe it hadn't sunk in, and saw our classic billboard saying local, trusted, defunded. So have real people responded in the way you'd hope? I know it's only been a week, but what's the donor community? I mean, big and small. What's the reaction been?
I mean, it has been 6 days, and we have had a tremendous outpouring of support from donors, big and small. And I am hearing stories from my colleagues across the system that the same is true. And I also know hundreds of thousands of people have also reached back out to Congress saying, hey, we don't like what you did. We do not like this result.
We asked you last time, I thought you'd bristle at this question last time. You didn't bristle at all when we asked you. So there are all these stories about BUR and your buddies with Margaret Lowe, who was the head of BUR and GBH merging. This is obviously pre the vote in Congress and Trump signing off on this thing. Is the fact that it's now a reality, the worst case scenarios you described, make that kind of thing a more likely proposition? You didn't reject it out of hand. If people didn't hear, you said anything's possible.
Well, look, I think that the loss of a huge amount of money out of the public media system will cause stations across the country to look at how can they do a better job economizing on the back end so they can keep providing the front end services.
Consolidation kind of things.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
But, I think a lot about what's happened in Indiana. So in Indiana, I believe there are 17 public media stations, some TV, some radio.
17?
17. Some TV, some radio, some both. And they also just lost their state funding in Indiana.
Yeah.
Okay, so no state funding, no federal funding. It would make a lot of sense for there to be a new way to think about how do you manage this? Does everybody need an HR department and a finance department? Can there be cooperation to keep the service on the front end?
You didn't answer the question.
I know I didn't.
So does that mean something's going on you don't want us to know about?
Jim, you will be the first to know.
I don't think so, but okay.
So tell people who are listening to us and are happy this happened, why should these stations get money from the taxpayers?
We should get money from taxpayers, and it is only $1.60 per American per year. Every American should be really proud to turn over $1.60 to bring news, information, and educational programming to people in 99% of the country who otherwise might not get it. Emergency services, programs for kids who don't get to go to pre-K, and really great programs like the ones we produce: Frontline, American Experience, Nova, Masterpiece, Antiques Roadshow.
You don't wear your emotions on your sleeve like Marjorie and I do, but how's this affecting you? Personally, I don't mean as the boss. How's this affecting you?
It was a gut punch, I've got to say. I don't want to compare this to the death of an individual, but I kind of felt a little bit like I did when my parents died, in that they were both ill, and so I knew they were going to die. But then when it actually happened, I was still so shocked. And that's the part that felt comparable to me, that when this actually happened, even though we prepared for it, even though we were ready, even though we had 93 contingency plans, I still felt shocked.
Susan Goldberg, I want to repeat, first to know. Do you remember you said that a minute ago?
First to know.
First to know. Thank you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for coming in. We've been speaking with GBH President and CEO Susan Goldberg. Coming up after the 1 o'clock news, Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Leung. She's going to talk about the mayor's race and a lot of other things.
Before she goes, wait. Here is a quick
Maribel?
one. A text. Hello there. I subscribe to GBH. I am from Canada. We have a ton of these, by the way, that have come in the last 10 minutes. Keep them coming.
Yeah, we also have somebody who really likes what you're wearing on the supervision note. She thinks that your top there is whatever it is, caftan. So beautiful, says Maribel.
Okay.
Anyway, we're done. This is Boston Public Radio.
Done. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. Thank
Bye.
you.
If you're a GBH sustainer and you received a new bank or credit card in the mail recently, there's an easy way to update your information. Just visit gbh.org/update and keep your membership up to date. That's gbh.org/update.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the Boston Speaker Series, continuing its 2025-2026 season at Symphony Hall with 7 evenings, featuring Tipping Point author Malcolm Gladwell, Dr. Anthony Fauci, Ken Burns, and former National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster. BostonSpeakers.org. And the Museum of Science, presenting the new exhibit, Perception Playground, which explores how your brain shapes your understanding of reality. Tickets at mos.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, head on Hour 3 of BPR. We'll start with Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Leung. The legislature doesn't move fast on most things, but it might pass a measure to allow online gambling in Massachusetts. We'll talk to Shirley about that, and we'll get her take on the state of the Josh Kraft challenge to Mayor Wu's candidacy.
Marjorie Egan, then it's Am I the A-Hole Day, Summer Edition. One mother insists on her family sharing towels. That's right, 1 or 2 towels per week for a family of 4. Mom says it's bad for the environment to keep washing individual towels. The kids are worried about personal hygiene. Who's the bigger jerk here? Sharing towels and you, next on the third hour of BPR 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Wrestling legend Hulk Hogan, who helped turn the WWE into a global phenomenon and became one of the most recognizable figures in pop culture, has died. He was 71 years old. The Clearwater Police Department in Florida confirmed his death on Facebook, writing that paramedics were dispatched to Hogan's home this morning in response to calls reporting a cardiac arrest. He was pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. Under MAGA pressure for more transparency on the Epstein files, Trump administration allies and critics are looking to Ghislaine Maxwell for answers. The former associate of the wealthy businessman who was found dead in his jail cell in 2019 is serving a 20-year sentence in Florida for helping Epstein sexually abuse underage girls. The chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Jaques Pepin, says the congressional panel plans to depose Maxwell.
I told Speaker Johnson last week, if we were in session this week, that Republicans on the Oversight Committee were going to move to be more aggressive in trying to get transparency with the Epstein files. So we did that, and I think that's what the American people want.
Speaker Mike Johnson adjourned the House yesterday, pushing out any action on the Epstein matter until after the August recess. Meanwhile, Comer says his committee is also moving quickly on formally issuing a subpoena to the Justice Department to release the full Epstein files following a subcommittee vote yesterday. President Trump is set to visit the Federal Reserve this afternoon. This coming amidst a campaign from the president and his allies to hector Fed Chair Jerome Powell about interest rates and a major renovation of the Fed's Washington, D.C. building. NPR's Tamara Keith reports.
Trump has repeatedly charged that the Fed chair is too late in lowering interest rates. And then there's the renovation, which Trump allies suggest could be grounds for firing Powell. Here was Trump.
No, we're not planning on doing anything. We're very concerned. He's doing a little renovation for $2.5 billion of the Fed.
It is over budget.
And it's a shame, but the biggest cost overrun is the cost overrun for interest rates, because we should be paying 3 points lower.
The Fed chair, whose term ends next year, says he has no intention of quitting. This visit amps up Trump's pressure campaign, which threatens the Fed's independence. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
Russian aviation authorities are reporting the crash of a passenger plane in a remote region of the country's Far East. All of the nearly 50 passengers on board are feared dead. The commercial plane was en route from the far eastern city of Blagoveshchik to a remote town in the Amur region bordering China. The Dow is down more than 200 points at last check. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Some Harvard professors say they're worried that Columbia has capitulated in the federal government, with the school reaching a $200 million deal to resolve its tensions with the Trump administration. Under the agreement, Columbia's federal research funding will be restored. In turn, the university will make changes to its disciplinary protocols and upgrade campus safety. Harvard government professor Ryan Enos says the deal amounts to extortion, with the administration making demands and freezing Columbia's funding.
And then saying, well, we can make it all go away if you just agree to what we want. And that is no different than if somebody walks up to somebody on the street and says, well, if you give me your wallet, I won't break your knuckles.
Other professors say Columbia did the right thing and the reforms are long overdue. 2 South End residents and 2 Boston Globe staff members were attacked at Mass and Cass last week. The Boston Guardian reports that the 4 were attacked by a group of alleged drug dealers after taking photos of open-air drug use. The attack marks an escalation in the continuing health crisis at the intersection of Massachusetts Ave and Melnia Cass Boulevard, which is widely considered the epicenter of Boston's drug problem. The 2 residents were touring the area around Rosie's Place on Harrison Ave last Wednesday. They were doing so with a reporter and a photographer for the Globe. When the photographer started to take photos, the residents said a drug user approached them and started threatening them by swinging a cat's paw weapon, which is a metal rod with nails sticking out of it. The photographer was not injured. 86 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include ARM, with the new podcast series Tech Unheard. ARM CEO Renee Haas talks to tech company leaders who are working to help shape the future of computing. Available on all podcast platforms.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan will be back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow with Congressman Jake Auchincloss. Live Music Friday, some Celtic music, Jim.
Yep.
And press play and more. Hello again. How are you?
I want to do a clarification that Marjorie and I should have done when we were talking to our boss a few minutes ago, Susan Goldberg. We mentioned that 13 employees from the brilliant PBS program, American Experience, were laid off. We shouldn't have ended there. We should say, just so you know, particularly for those of you who are fans, which I assume is almost everybody, this fall the program will continue as planned. The year after that, they'll play their best documentaries, throughout the years, the best of, while Susan and her colleagues here are figuring out what the reconfiguration of a new American Experience will look like on different platforms, et cetera. So it's not going away, and I didn't want to leave that impression.
However, was my fault.
However, no, it wasn't your fault. But however, we really, who are going away is 13 employees, and obviously we mourn the fact that some of our colleagues unfortunately lost their jobs. Having said that, we're joined now on Zoom by Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Leung. She also hosts the podcast Say More with Shirley Leung. New episodes every Thursday. Hi, Shirley.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Marjorie.
Hello.
Hey.
So let's start with the mayor's race in Boston. Josh Kraft is challenging Mayor Michelle Wu. Adrian Walker and Joan Vanocchi, two columnists at the Globe, have been pretty tough on this. I mean, the latest polls show Kraft way behind, like 30 points, which is a lot. And Joan Vanocchi thinks he may have tarnished his all the good work he did at the Boys and Girls Club by even launching this campaign. So what do you think?
I have to agree with my colleagues, Adrian and Joan, on this race. I mean, this was off of the Globe had commissioned a poll with Suffolk University. I think a lot of us thought, Mayor Wu does have the upper hand in the race. Josh's campaign really hasn't taken off. He went negative too soon. As Joan points out, he's really good at kind of criticizing Mayor Wu, but what does he stand for? And I think he does risk his reputation. 30 years at the Boys and Girls Club and doing good, and now people are going to remember him as kind of who ran against Mayor Wu, went negative really early, spent all this money, his own money, his dad's buddy's money, and still lost. And so when I look back, I think his best day was the day he launched, right? In February. And I think there was that Emerson College poll that showed that the race could be somewhat could be tighter than anyone expected, right? I mean, her popularity, it wasn't off the charts. It was pretty low for an incumbent mayor, but this poll shows that she's actually more popular than Mayor Walsh. Her favorability is higher than his.
I have to say, I really don't understand this campaign. And by the way, the last week of August, which is a week and a half before the preliminary, we will have Mayor Wu on, as well as, not together, but day after each other, and Josh Kraft the next day. I don't know Josh Kraft well, but I know his reputation really well from people whom I respect.
Great reputation.
And people spoke glowingly about the work that he has done out in the community. And the point, I think it was Joan mentioned, maybe Adrian did too, the cardinal rule of politics, and his team, they are really experienced, mostly successful campaign types, is when people don't know who you are, all they know is you're Robert Kraft's kid, you introduce yourself before you start doing black and white video of a mayor who's very popular. I'm not sure you should do that anyway. When your asset is people really respect you and respect your dedication to community. From a rich family, didn't have to do this, but chose to do that. Celebrate that. Be the kind of positive force you are. But I guess the decision has been made, and we'll see what happens, is you can't beat an incumbent unless you try to rip her to shreds. And that, to me, and I could be wrong, is not who Josh Kraft has been in his public life for 3 decades,
No, I would agree with that. And I think a lot of the negative ads we saw early on were from the Super PAC, right?
Oh, and that's a very important point. I'm sorry.
Super PAC supporting Josh Kraft and the official campaign and the Super PAC are not supposed to be coordinated.
Not supposed to be, but as Joan also wrote a few months ago, there's a lot of intersection, let's put it.
Yes, between. But I have to say the current there are current ads on TV that are funded by Josh Kraft are positive, right? They celebrate. They have kind of testimonials from people who know Josh Kraft, who benefited from knowing him and.
Well, you lead with that, is what I'm saying.
Yes,
establish
exactly.
that in the minds of the people, rather than establish the fact that you think Mayor Wu is, the Antichrist or whatever those PAC ads are suggesting.
It's also, I've said this before, it just was such an odd time. Boston is not a Trump city. His father is quite involved with Trump. His stepmother is on the board of the Kennedy Center, appointed
His father's not running. I mean,
but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's parachuting in from Chestnut Hill. The association is New England. He can't get away from it. Josh Kraft is New England Patriots associated with that team and his father. I just thought, why is he doing this now? I mean, it seemed to me, like you said, he's got a great reputation, great work at the Boys and Girls. Wait, is it the developers that are mad at Mayor Wu because she doesn't return their phone calls? Well, lot of them do not even live in Boston. They're not going to vote in Boston. I can guess you can get a lot of money, but it just seemed like a very timing-wise, very bad timing.
Well, I think they were testing out this idea. Trump did gain more support in Massachusetts, in Boston. Maybe there's a kind of a silent majority for Trump in Boston, and they were testing that. But our poll shows no. And I think also that people do not want to be associated, do not want a mayor associated with Trump. But also we have to talk about the March, her appearance.
That's right.
In March, where she stood up to the Trump administration. I think a lot of people still remember her testimony, her, and I love, I wrote about this and Joan wrote about it, but just the image, right? The enduring image of Mayor Wu, baby Mira is with her, right? In Congress. She's got ashes on her forehead because it was Ash Wednesday, and she's standing up, for immigrants, for Boston. And so I think a lot of people remember her from her testimony.
Again, they'll both join us one day after another the last week of August. So the only thing, in my opinion, that is worse than Massachusetts having legalized casinos is the fact that you write that they're about to legalize online gambling at casinos. So you can do it in your underpants on your couch at home and lose even more money. And by the way, as you say, the legislature just legalized online lottery, which I guess will happen next year or something like that.
Summer of 2026. Yeah.
So what's going on? All of a sudden, this has an urgency that other things like paying the bar advocates does not? What's going on?
Right. I mean, well, I had heard, I didn't even know that there was legislation.
I didn't either.
To legalize online casinos. And I think those who opposed it didn't think it was going anywhere. And then suddenly it was like, oh, wow, it got a hearing last week of June. And I think those who opposed the legislation were concerned that this was on some kind of fast track. Now, I talked to Senator Feeney, one of the sponsors of the legislation. He's like, I can assure you it's not on a fast track. As I write in my column, I think legalizing online casinos. This is like, the ability to play slots online or poker online, all those card games. It's probably more consequential than the original 2011 bill that legalized casinos, more consequential than allowing sports betting in 2022. It's a much bigger market. I worried that the legislature and others were like, oh, isn't this just like sports betting, which a lot of it takes place online. It's the same exact thing, but it's not. It's very, very different. And I hope the legislature takes this time to think about, is this the right move for Massachusetts? I think the fear from opponents is that the legislature might move fast on this because there's a lot of revenue. There's at least $200 million in extra tax revenue that can be made off of online casinos.
And by the way, and that will allow them not to do what they don't want to do, is equitably raise taxes if they need money. One of the questions that's never asked by the leaders on this question is the issue about, do we want to remain the number one state in state-sponsored gambling? Marjorie's sick of me saying this, but the late Tom Birmingham did a study that I've quoted about 1,000 times and written about it actually in the Globe, that just the lottery, one piece of gambling, we spend almost twice as much as the second highest playing lottery state. I think it's the District of Columbia, if I remember correctly, in the country. So, and while people say, well, so what? Because more than $1 billion goes to cities and towns. Well, for $1 billion to go to cities and towns, people have to lose $1 billion or whatever it is. And then we have sports gambling. And then we have online lottery is coming. And then there's a point at which there's got to be an examination about what's the appropriate role of state government in terms of providing opportunities for people to lose their money. And for those of you who say it's voluntary out there, grow up. There's a real problem. The closer, for example, a casino is to you, as you know, Shirley, the more you gamble. Well, the casino's coming to your house. Right. And if this were to
coming
pass,
to your cell phone.
Exactly. So I hope there's that debate, at least among some people of principle, up on Beacon Hill.
So some good news about the charging stations. If you're somebody who's got an electric car, there's a headline of Reuters about fewer than 400 EV charging ports built under $7.5 billion U.S. infrastructure program, which is pretty pathetic. However, we're going to get some more around here, I guess, right?
Right. The rest stops along the Pike are getting a new a vendor, and we had an interview. My colleague Aaron Pressman was interviewed. I think the CEO of Applegreen, that's the Irish convenience store giant that's going to take over management of the state's highway rest stops, and the CEO is assuring that there'll be dozens of new EV chargers on the rest stops, which is good news. I mean, I know. Jim has a Tesla.
He does.
I have a Hyundai Ioniq, and I also have a Kia Sorento hybrid. So Marjorie, is it your turn, or are you going to stick with? You have a Prius, right?
I have a hybrid. Toyota RAV4, but I want to get it. I love the one you have, the Ioniq. My son-in-law's got one of those, and I drove it, and I felt like I was in a spaceship. It was absolutely great. I thought it was wonderful.
It is.
But I'm running out of time.
But it is hard. It is hard to find an EV charger. I mean, the Tesla's much easier, right?
Yep.
Tesla, you can find chargers.
You can not only find chargers, they charge them like incredibly quickly. And my understanding of the story that we read is these chargers that are going to be added, dozens, I think, to the over the next couple of years to the Turnpike rest stops, are going to be high-speed chargers, but fast chargers available not just for Teslas, which is what the Tesla chargers are now, but for everybody, which is a really kind of big deal.
Of course, the thing is, you have to drive out to the Mass Pike to charge your car, I guess.
No, but if
drive
it's
home.
No. If you, but I know you're being somewhat facetious. The beauty of the placement of most of, at least the Tesla chargers, they're near a place. Like, for example, the one I go to is in Somerville, which is right next to a supermarket.
I thought it was the Lennox Hotel.
No, well, the Lennox Hotel is pretty good to us too. Other than the Lennox Hotel, thank you for
GBH
that.
also offers charging too, right?
What?
But GBH, don't you guys have
Yeah, they
charging?
do. They have in one of the lots. They have.
Do they?
I believe they do. I don't park in that lot. But the point being, they generally do the high speed chargers near a place where you can go get a cup of coffee or do your shopping or that sort of thing.
How much longer are the tax credits even there?
Well, see, that's the issue. The thing that I haven't read.
They're going away soon.
Yeah,
right?
soon.
And I don't as much
Very
as
soon.
range anxiety is a huge issue in terms of why people are not buying Teslas or not buying EVs. When the credits are gone, it seems to me, even if you deal with range anxiety, there's still going to be a big problem,
see the
right?
note from our staff?
No.
This is from Jamie.
What?
Jamie also has an electric vehicle, but he points out that the Lennox Hotel, they only exclusively charge Jim's Tesla
That's
now.
not true.
Poor Jamie. He doesn't even bother to ask to get a charge on his little Mustang there because Jim's car is always plugged in. And I remember the day that they moved the charging station, and Jim came out of the show irate.
I was irate.
Where is my charger?
Yeah.
Jim, you don't charge at home?
No, I don't, because I don't have a driveway that is exclusively
That's right.
mine.
Home isn't free. It isn't free. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's also slow. Like, right now when it's been really hot, I mean, I set up one of those chargers at home, right? And I got a great state rebate. It was so seamless. But I'm actually afraid to charge my home, charge at home when it's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah, because of the heat. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm not sure if I can run my central AC and charge my car.
That's a great point.
I don't want to risk it. So I end up looking for local chargers if I need to charge my car, because I don't know what's going to happen if I think something bad will happen if I attempt central AC and charge my car for 8 hours.
Okay. Our staff has a suggestion.
Really
Tell Shirley to come to the Lennox Hotel and do a Jim Browdy impression. Say, "Do you know who I am?" And then they'll let you charge your car for free.
I'm filling in for Jim today. Never mind, you saw him earlier. I'm actually filling in today.
Can I, by the way, there's only so much insult I'm willing to take, so I have to respond to this, if I may. I have said to the people who charge the cars at the Lennox, every couple of months, throw Jamie a bone. Charge his car for a couple of minutes, then take it off and put mine back on. So it's not like he doesn't get any benefit from being.
By the way, aren't they up to, like, when I drove the Ioniq, it was like 350 miles when it was full up. So you get quite a distance there.
Yeah,
even in the wintertime, it's you lose more in the wintertime.
But the thing is, it's something. But you do get anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm only at 150 miles. You're like, okay. At least when you're in a car, there's gas stations, right?
Yeah.
A regular car. But then you have to look for a charger, and so and then you have to make sure that it's available,
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why I don't have two EVs. I have one EV, and then I have a hybrid, for longer distances.
We're talking to Shirley Leung.
Okay. Tell us about this trash strike. Jim doesn't care about it because it's not occurring in Cambridge.
I don't understand it. I think it's a month-long strike.
Yeah, 90 degrees.
Services.
What do you do?
It would be my worst nightmare. If I did not have weekly trash pickup. I was just in downtown Boston yesterday, and you're starting to see the Republic trash bins on the street. I mean, they're not overflowing yet, but you don't really usually see trash bins.
No, it's gross.
Sidewalk.
And it's going to be.
I'm starting to see it, and I mean, they're not like open bags, but you don't see trash, trash bins. So you see them in the alleys, but now I see them on the sidewalks, and it's a good thing that Mayor Wu and the city is starting to fine Republic for not picking up the trash. But it would be my worst nightmare to have. I was thinking, like, I was talking to my colleague Hiawatha Bray about this when we saw the trash bins out on the street, and we're thinking, like, what would we do? I mean, he was like,
exactly.
But would you start to keep trash in your garage? And I said, I wouldn't do that. You would attract rats.
No, people will start putting them in the back of their car and driving off somewhere and throwing them out the window.
I know someone who's done that from time to time.
Right,
really?
That's what I was thinking. Because I would have
Jim has thrown his trash out the window.
I didn't say it was
from
me.
the back of the Tesla.
Not out the window. You've never taken a trash bag, either of you, from your house?
No.
And left it somewhere else?
No.
You haven't?
No.
I mean, I guess.
By the way, you know what you do? Can I give you a secret?
What a scufflaw.
You take it to the Lennox, and when your car's getting charged, you ask one of.
Well, no, but the thing is, I'm surprised. I was like, and I know some cities are starting to write letters to Bill Gates, right? Because he's a major shareholder of Republic Services.
I didn't know that. Is that true?
Yes, some cities are starting to write letters to Bill Gates, imploring him to intervene. Of course, the governor has also said, please come to a deal. Both sides. I mean, the workers are striking, but this is to me, it's a crisis.
We're getting a lot of people are upset about this.
I'm gonna have a stroke about this thing. This please come to a deal thing. We played sound from Governor Healy earlier, urging the bar advocates to go back to work while the legislature is doing nothing to help them. She didn't say doing nothing. I'm saying doing nothing. How about exercising the bully pulpit that you have, whether you're a mayor or a governor? Call them both in, both sides. Call the Teamsters in. Scream at them. Tell them you're not leaving this room. Tell them you're going to pay a price. Trust me, if it turns out you continue to screw the people of the city or the bar advocates, this is not the way you play politics.
Tomorrow it's going to be like 95 degrees, right? Especially if you have food in your garbage, which lots of people do because they're not composting. The smell is going to get
Excuse me. You put it in the back seat of your car. You drive around. You look in the rearview mirror. You see if anybody's looking. And then you do what you got to do.
But there are cameras everywhere now.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm not suggesting what apparently you.
A texter wants to know if the Lennox Hotel disposed of your mother's ashes.
No, they're in the car
as well.
They're in the car.
Oh, they're still in the back of the car. Yeah, they're pretty hot in the back of the car
I know,
too.
you're getting all excited.
She's like asking, because don't they do the air conditioning thing in the Tesla when you get out of the car for the dogs?
It's called
and stuff?
dog mode.
Yeah.
Do you have dog mode in any of your cars?
Yeah.
I don't think so, but I've heard of dog mode because my cousin has a Tesla.
Yeah.
And I remember one time, we're like, where's the dog? He's like, oh, he's in the car. We're like, what? This is out in California. He's like, it's on dog mode. I was like, oh my goodness.
You know what we need? We need Mother's Ashes mode.
Oh, that's funny. But by the way, dog mode, for people don't understand how this works. I'm not supposed to celebrate Tesla, but I am. When you do dog mode, it keeps the temperature constant so the dog doesn't die in the car. And for people who are, what are they called? Good Samaritans who think your dog is going to die in the car, the screen in your car, which in a Tesla is quite large, says something like, I'm in dog mode, I'm perfectly fine, the temperature, and whatever kind of thing. So there you go.
Okay. I still would do dog mode. I don't know if I would trust
Why? You worry it's not going to work?
It's not going to work. I mean, the dog can't complain. The dog can't complain, say anything. It's risky.
Well, the other alternative is just leave the dog at the Lennox. That's the other possibility. And they. By the way, let me just say, because they are some of the nicest people. The people we deal with, the Lennox, from management on down,
they're great.
And the door guys who we love, Peter, Mike, everybody, they're spectacular people.
Our staff wants to know, Jim, didn't you hear Arlo Guthrie's Alice's Restaurant?
I did.
About throwing the garbage down the bank up there in Stockbridge or in the Tesla,
I'm not a scuffle at all.
Yeah.
I play by the rules, unlike the people who are driving the bus lane.
See what Robin Bedford said?
Oh my God, what did he say?
He said, "We're doing our next segment. Shirley is who's the a-hole." And Robin Bedford says, "Jim is the a-hole for hogging the charging station at the Lennox Hotel. What about Jamie and his Mustang?"
Okay, what's on the podcast? Let's move on. What's on the podcast, Shirley?
We have Jake.
Oh, you do?
Oh, great!
Yeah, you guys are hearing him. He's coming in tomorrow, right?
Yeah, he's coming in with who's he coming in with? With John Gruber, and they're doing it. The head of the economics department at MIT, and they're doing a joint kind of thing tomorrow. Yeah,
excellent. Yeah,
so, what are you talking to them about?
So, I have Corinne Hajar, another Globe columnist.
Yeah.
She's filling in for today's episode, and she had a great conversation with Jake Auchincloss, congressman from Newton, and his big thing is about the Democrat and the future of the Democratic Party and how there needs to be reform and change, and so there's a lot of discussion on that. But he also talks a lot about housing and he has a lot of ideas on how to jumpstart housing.
Oh, good.
And so, which made me wonder, is he, I know there are all these rumors that, would he challenge Markey? And Corinne did ask him. And
what did he say?
He said, I'm focused on running for re-election.
Well, that's not an answer. Okay.
Right. It's not, I'm focused on, all the cuts about Medicaid, which you guys will talk about. So you guys should ask him again.
We will.
See if he's changed his mind in a week. Yep.
By the way, I'm one of the people, in the spirit of full disclosure, just like I always disclose to every time there's an opportunity I do, Tayana Presley. I thought she was going to get crushed by Capuano, and I couldn't have been more wrong. I thought Joe Kennedy was going to beat Ed Markey, and young Joe got killed in the primary. He was beaten pretty soundly by Markey. So, don't
ask Auchincloss if he's going to run for Markey's office. But can you ask him one more question, too?
Yeah, what is it?
Is every time he talks about housing and how to jumpstart housing in Massachusetts, maybe he's not running, maybe he's not eyeing senators.
Governor.
Maybe he wants to be governor.
Yeah.
And so maybe ask him if he's going to run for governor.
Okay, we'll take care of it. We're on it.
Okay.
Hey, Shirley, it's great to see you.
Shirley, thank you very much. Can't wait to hear the podcast. I love your podcast.
We do too. I do too.
We've been speaking with Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Leung, the host of the podcast Say More with Shirley Leung. You can Say More, that's it. New episodes come out every Thursday. That, of course, is today. And she's also a great business columnist for the Boston Globe. Okay, coming up after this quick break, it is once again, Am I the A-Hole Day?
It's a good one, too.
Yeah. This week, a mother comes up with a crafty solution to cut down on water use and help the environment. Have everyone share towels in the family, not for one day, not for 2 days, 4 people sharing one towel for the entire week. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, we'll hear what some Harvard faculty have to say about Columbia's deal with the Trump administration. Researchers have discovered a new and cleaner method for recycling batteries. And the summer crowds didn't show up, but neither did the staff. What Doge cuts mean for the Glacier National Park in Montana. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Museum of Science, presenting the new exhibit, Perception Playground, which explores how your brain shapes your understanding of reality. Tickets at MOS.org. And the Cambridge Homes, a nonprofit, independent, and assisted living residence with a tradition of service, working with Cambridge area seniors for more than 130 years. You can learn more at thecambridgehomes.org/tradition.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Back at the library tomorrow, Congressman Jake Auchincloss, live music Friday, press play. Callie's joining us, a whole bunch of things. You've made it to the latest edition of Marjorie's favorite segment of the week, the only reason she never takes a Thursday off.
That's right.
That is, am I the a-hole, or who is the a-hole, whatever it is. Situation we're presenting is from an article in The Guardian. A mother has a controversy. Well, it's not just a proposal. She's doing it. The mother has this policy in her house for her family of 4, 2 kids, the parents. In order to save on water and do their part for the environment, she wants everyone to cut back significantly on the family's towel usage. Right now, each person in the family is going through multiple towels a week. So here's what she's proposed, that the entire family instead share 1 or 2 towels among all of them. Is that correct, among all of them?
4 of them are supposed to share 1 towel for the week.
Among all of them, okay. Not everyone is in love with the idea, particularly the 21-year-old live-at-home daughter. She says she's worried about fungal
infections. That's right.
Okay,
and urinary tract infections.
Okay, fungal and urinary tract infections.
It's a jungle
and that
out
it's
there.
unsanitary. She originally wanted a new towel every day. This is the daughter. She said she would compromise and have 1 new towel a week. Now, to the mother's credit, she acknowledges that it's not as hygienic as the family's prior fresh towel every day system, but she makes the case there's a generational divide going on. She grew up sharing towels. Nobody seemed to mind. Yes, it might mean a germ or 2 extra, but they're a family sharing food, coexisting. Is this really that big a deal? So the question, quite simply, is who's the a-hole here? The towel washing daughter who wants now at least her own towel and a fresh towel every week, or the mother who says the family should share 1 square kind of thing in the spirit of what was that?
Sheryl Crow.
Sheryl Crow, thank you.
Yeah, she said 1 square toilet paper.
Or 2.
Yeah.
And an important side issue, how often do you change your towels? And how do you know when a towel's done and needs to be taken out of rotation? The number is 877-301-8970. Who's the a-hole, Marjorie?
The mother's over the top on this.
She is?
Yeah, she absolutely is. I mean, I get the idea, fewer towels to be washed and save the environment, less water used and all that kind of stuff. But this is a little much. One towel for everybody. They got a 5-year-old little kid.
She said 2.
I think she said 1.
No, she said 1 or 2. She 2 of them, all of them share 2.
So even. So, okay, because you need 2 towels if you're a woman with long hair and you wash your hair. You want to wrap your hair in a towel.
Sure, yeah.
So, but they got a 5-year-old kid here who's probably rolling around in the dirt and having a good time being a little 5-year-old in kindergarten.
Yeah, but
and
you roll around in the dirt. You use the towel after you've washed yourself, not after you've rolled around in the dirt.
Well, apparently washing yourself doesn't solve everything, Jim.
Doesn't?
Because what about the dreaded fungal infections?
Fungal infections? Or urinary tract infection? Okay. Do we have a doctor calling in this segment, or we don't?
You don't want to get those.
So you think the mother is the a-hole for being that limiting? So obviously, despite what you say on the air, you obviously don't care about the environment because it's bad for the environment.
I think that it's a washing clothes is definitely using that water is definitely bad for the environment. But Jim, we do wash our clothes. So, when we wash our clothes, you usually throw in a couple of towels and the towels get dried off. Now, the theory is, too, that the towels, they do get damp after you dry off with them, and they get damp if you wrap your hair up in them. And the daughter's making the argument that the moisture breeds bacteria, especially in damp, warm environments like the bathroom. Before you know it,
you get a fungal infection. It's not fun. You ever had a fungal infection?
No, I haven't.
Horrible.
Have you?
So I have. Yeah, many.
Really?
Many.
Where?
In my fungal. Now, let me just say this. Thank you.
Have you seen it? They have so you're in trouble when you start to have fungal infection ads on your show. We had a lot of ours at the old station.
On our old station, we had so many fungal infection ads. That's when we knew we were really in trouble. With the number of... Okay, let's move on. Now, I have 2 things to say. You haven't asked me what my position is.
No, what is
I'm
your
going to do
position?
a Marjorie again. I actually see both sides of this.
Oh, you do?
You
okay.
know that I grew up in a family of 8 children. And when I grew up, we had 2 towels. The whole family shared 2 towels.
Okay.
I didn't like it, but I did it anyway. Now, so that would make you think that I'd be on that side. But my primary reason why I'm probably with you is what Shelley from Plymouth said.
Okay.
This is absolutely disgusting. Does everyone dry their privates? Each person should have 1 towel per week. It's the privates thing, not the fungal infection.
Well, you're drying your privates to ward off the fungal infection.
Exactly.
Although for the ads, I think they're mostly in your toenails.
They are?
That seems to be the main spot for fungal infections, according to the ads used to run on our radio show.
Yeah, I know.
That was
our biggest ad. fungal. Oh, they're here. We're doing really well. We have 3 fungal infection ads today.
Okay.
877-301-897.
Have we played the sound yet? Have we played the sound
let's
yet?
get back to basics.
Okay.
Is the mother the a-hole who wants the family of 4, a young kid, a 21-year-old daughter, and a father and a mother to share 1 or 2 towels per week for the environment? Or is the daughter who demands her own towel? She actually took her towel into her room to try to protect it. She wants her own fresh towel. Is she the a-hole?
Dee raises a great point.
What'd she say?
If you are 4th in line for the shower or the bath, the towel might not do the job since it would be wet.
Yeah.
Brilliant point, Dee. We should have thought of that.
Okay.
Anyway, let's go to Nancy.
And by the way, we rarely take calls out of order.
Yep.
But if anybody has had a fungal infection or two, and tell Hannah's screening the calls, we will take you out of order.
Yeah, we shouldn't be laughing because you know why we'd be laughing?
No,
it's going to
we'll
wind up
get
with a
them next.
fungal infection.
Exactly.
That's right. Nancy from New Hampshire, thank you for calling.
Hey, Nancy, who's the a-hole?
Hi, the mother is the a-hole.
Why is that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's just disgusting. I have a family member who has 3 children, and she makes them use a new towel every day.
Wow.
And I don't think that's right because that's a waste of water. Why not use 1 towel for a week if it's just you?
Yeah, that seems like it's like you're supposed to change your sheets once a week, right? You change your sheets. Yeah, change your sheets once a week and change the towel once a week. Or if you're, super hygienic. This person just texted Nancy who said they nanny for a family in a very wealthy community, family of 5, new towels after every shower every day. Now, I think that's a little bit much. What do you think, Nancy?
That's my family member that does the same thing.
There you
doing
go.
Nothing but laundry all the time.
Well, Nancy, you said it beautifully.
Just use 1 towel a week.
We're losing you. We got to let you go, but thank you very much. It's a bad connection. Thank you much for the call. So do you believe when those hotels say it's your choice, but maybe you don't want to throw your towel on the floor because we're doing it for the environment? Are they doing it for the environment, or are they doing it because they want to save money?
They probably want to save money.
Yeah, I'd say
they
so.
probably want to save money, but that's okay. I don't mind. I mean, if I'm only in a hotel room for a night or 2 nights, I don't need to have a clean towel. Don't throw it on the floor. Just hang it back up.
Yeah.
Okay. The UPS driver wants to know if Jim's fungal infection was on his morning stove.
Yeah, Marjorie's very immature and unprofessional. Not only is that not funny to anybody, but secondly, I don't have Mordenstow. She doesn't even know what it is. But
Yes,
whatever
I do.
it is,
I do.
It's when the
It's when
second
your
toe
second
is
toe is
longer
bigger than
the-
your big toe.
But mine is not. So you can say this.
We've seen you in your Birkenstocks,
No, you
Jim.
haven't. I don't have Birkenstocks. Never have. Never will.
Okay, what are those sandals you wear?
What?
From Provincetown. What are those sandals you
They're
wear?
handmade by Kim Rouleau.
Oh, they're handmade.
His family,
okay.
the most famous
Well, that's what we
sandal
saw.
makers in the history of his father, Roger Rouleau, was a customer of mine in my store in
We all
Provincetown
saw
many years ago.
the sandals, the handmade
He's
sandals, and we all
legendary.
offered you our condolences.
No, I don't have that, and don't write us anymore, Woody. Actually, we love Woody, the UPS driver.
Dan from Rehoboth,
Dan
what do you
Rehoboth,
think?
Yeah, what's the deal?
Hey,
Yeah,
I got a cottage down the Cape that I go down to every weekend.
great.
And
Nice.
I use the same towel for the whole year.
Okay.
All I do is
great.
get done, I hang it out,
Sure.
I let it dry.
Why not?
So this lady is the a-hole.
Okay.
Okay, Dan.
Absolutely. You can't use the same towel as somebody else in the family. Come on.
Yeah, but you're using one for a
But
year.
it's just for himself. It's just for himself.
Oh, I
and you
see.
bring up an interesting point, Dan. You
Yeah,
put the
my
towel out on the clothesline. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I hang it over the outside shower. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Let it dry.
Because you ever notice
Good to go.
how when you hang a towel, we used to do when you were kids in the clothesline, it's really nice and rough and
Yeah,
it
it is nice.
smells
Smells
great.
nice, yeah.
Yeah,
it's great.
Absolutely.
I think
So,
you're-
Dan, I'm a
hang
little
clothes out at home,
suspicious.
too.
Wait, how long do you use the same towel at home?
I use it for at least a week.
Oh, that's
and
not bad.
I also hang it out on my railing after I get done.
Let me tell you,
So
you
I do
take
let
this
it dry
serious.
out.
That's beautiful. You really have a very good attitude on the towel front. Thank you, Dan, for
Did you
your
see
call.
what Jamie said?
What did Jamie
That
say?
he has one of our old station fungal ads if we want to
Oh,
air it.
all right. We've played it many times. Let's play it. Here is, according to Jamie, I didn't know he had it. It's great that he found it. This is one of our stations, old stations, fungal ads, and we were in commercial radio. Here it is.
Itchy skin? Use Caniston, a complete solution for fungal infections. Caniston.
That was it.
That's right. That's when we were huge. We had those fungal ads. And shortly thereafter, we didn't have a job.
There was actually a story in the Globe that no radio show has ever had more fungal and urinary tract ads than we had.
And, if you watch TV and you see one of those fungal ads, they're in trouble too. Yeah, their days are numbered.
We were canceled like the next day. We were. And remember?
Didn't you do a personal, announcement about the fungal ads? Though,
I did.
You do a special?
Made a lot of money. Made a lot of cash on those spots. And
that's what you used to do on commercial radio.
Yeah.
Like I used to, I had a mattress ad contract.
I know you did.
So I used to do Gardner mattresses. Actually,
they were great mattresses, handmade.
I know. So I would get the mattress. They give I get a free mattress.
Here?
Well, I was pointing out that you use the fungal medicine on your Morton's toe. And it cured
it's like
it.
a 4-year-old, Marjorie. She really is. It's like a 4. I hope you're watching on YouTube to
Ann
see
from
this.
Marlboro. Hi,
Hello,
Ann.
Ann from Marlboro. Who's the a-hole?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment. I'm not sure who's the a-hole, but
That's fine.
if the CDC, since they're no longer recommending vaccines for many communicable diseases, sharing a towel about multiple generations of people and multiple persons' family will increase everybody's germ exposure, and therefore it will increase everybody's immunity to germs. So, the more you maybe get the whole neighborhood to share a towel from,
That's right. You could have group immunity. What do they call it? Herd immunity.
Exactly. Herd immunity. There you go. That's why I just wanted to say that.
Ann must be a doctor.
I think that's
that was
an idea.
Excellent, Ann. Thank
you just go from house to house with the same towel, and everybody can get a fungal infection
How
together.
often do you
they did that with the Native Americans.
That's right. The smallpox. Remember that? That was horrible.
Ann, thank you for your thoughts
it was
there.
horrible.
We appreciate it.
One of the texters points out that we had what Jim did when they were old radio station was
What Jim did?
What Jim did. He sold virility pills and fungal cures.
First of all, I did not sell virility pills on the old
Yes,
station.
you did.
I did. No.
John from Westwood, thank you for calling.
John from Westwood, hello.
Love you guys. I listen to you every day.
We love that. Thank you very much, John.
Yeah, and so I actually have a real story here on this very topic.
Okay.
When I was in college, I joined a scuba diving class, and we went to the same pool every week. And my friends were all, this was in Ireland, so they were all not really that good at, kind of taking care of the activities of daily living.
I see.
But anyway, they would take their towels at the end of the scuba diving lesson and throw them in their bag and bring it back every day. And every week, right? And not dry it out.
Oh, no.
So one week, after 4 weeks of this, I came in without my towel, and I was like, hey, Mike, can I borrow your towel? I don't have one. He said, yeah, sure. So I dried myself off. About a day later, I had an incredibly bad fungal infection in my groin. So I went to the hospital.
This is sad. It's not funny, Marjorie.
It wasn't. Trust me.
Okay, go.
Oh, John.
So what happened?
So I went to the doctor in Cork City, and they said, "Oh, this is really unique. We haven't seen an infection like this as bad as this." And she said, "Can I bring in some interns to help to explain to them what we're seeing?"
Sure. The show's only 3 hours long, John. You know that, right?
Oh, he's getting there.
Go ahead.
Getting there.
I'll stop. I'll stop.
No, go ahead.
No, it's going great so far.
So what happened? Go ahead.
So we get into the surgery.
Surgery?
It's like it was like a
fungal
a
surgery.
Big rotunda, and they put spotlights on my groin, asked me to drop my shorts.
Oh no!
And
we're going to get
17
fired.
interns came in. And the doctor started to
goodbye.
move.
Okay, I think John, you really that was a lovely
John,
story.
you're better now, right?
Yeah,
you're better now.
Well, I think we got rid of him. But John, that was really moving. The whole thing was beautiful.
That's what can happen.
International. It was great.
That's what can happen.
Multi-tellers. Nobody's even answering the question that we asked, which is, who's the a-hole? The daughter who wants her own towel,
the mother.
or
Everybody
the mother
thinks
who
the
says
mother.
1 or 2 towels for the whole week, for the whole family kind of experience.
Yeah, as Nancy points out, this is gross. The mom is the a-hole. The way to save water is just not to wash anything. Then towels aren't.
Well, that's obviously.
Well,
a
she's
little
being
extreme.
sarcastic.
How often do you? By the way, look me in the eyes when you answer this question, because I'm not sure you were telling the truth before. How often do you wash your towels?
Once a week.
Do you really wash them once a week?
Yeah, and if my children, my children are grown and gone now, but if they come over, if people over the house, then their towel is not it doesn't get completely dry because they haven't done it the right way, then I'm very cautious about it.
How does the cautiousness play out exactly?
Well, if the towel is damp. I don't like it if it's damp. If it's still damp, that's a bad sign. Sometimes they don't hang them correctly and they're still damp.
Upsets you when they don't hang them correctly?
And the same thing for sheets.
How do you feel when they don't hang them correctly?
I think that's a danger sign. It's a fungal danger sign.
How sad was that kid's story from Ireland?
It was terrible.
It's horrible.
Terrible. Yeah, terrible. And by the way, how about you? Why don't you say what you do?
Every day I wash them with towels.
You do not.
No, once a week. I mean, everybody. I assume everybody does it once a week.
And your sheets.
Yeah, once a week.
You were surprised when I said I did it once a week with the sheets. You looked like that was odd.
Well, maybe I did think it was. No, once a week I live by that. Once a week.
Okay. Oh, we have another ad from WTKK.
I think this is probably a huge mistake.
For the virility pills.
The first one was not very good.
Okay.
Should we really do this? Okay, no. Even Jamie, who came up with it, said don't do it.
Okay, don't do it. Okay, Chris from Nashua.
Hey, Chris
Thanks
from
for
Nashua.
calling.
What's up?
Hi there. Well, I think that they both are, although the mother may have a slight edge.
Okay.
The daughter, I think, is being ridiculously selfish.
Yeah.
The mother, I think if she is not limiting how long people spend in the shower, then she's probably wasting more money, more water that way. Now, for what it's worth, I change my towels once a week.
Wow.
The other thing is, does everybody really need to take a shower every day?
Well, that's
No,
a whole
you
other.
don't.
Yeah,
You
the answer
don't.
is yes.
No, you don't.
Marjorie doesn't.
We've
I
done
do.
this many times. It's the 5 dirty bits.
How often do you take your shower? I'm afraid to ask Chris, but how often do you take a shower?
A lot depends. I probably take showers 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh, that's
but what I
okay.
was going to tell you was, as a kid growing up on a farm, we had shallow dug wells, and we ran out of water every summer for 6 or 7 years. Needless to say, we did not take showers every day, but we washed.
That's right. Sponge baths. Sponge baths, the dirty bits.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
And also, for what it's worth, I went to school in Europe
Yeah, they don't shower
for
at
a
all.
semester. We had an apartment.
Yeah.
I could go upstairs, and the bathtub was in the landlord and landlady's apartment. I could go up once a week.
Okay.
But otherwise, yes.
There's not a lot of showering in Western Europe. I think we would agree.
it's true.
Chris,
that was a
an
great
excellent
call. Okay,
Now,
we have a few texts.
No, but before we get to the text, Jamie, is your point about this other alleged ad from our old station? The ad lists all the terrible side effects of it. Okay, we're going to take a chance on this, and if it's horrible, someone's going to lose their job.
We're going to blame Jamie.
Okay, so here is allegedly another ad from our old station.
He can't get his car charged anyway.
Where Marjorie and I used to work till they flipped to hip hop.
Okay.
And here
you have thick, discolored, or flaky nails? Millions of people do. It may be caused by an active live infection. That's why you should ask your doctor about prescription-only Lamisil. You can start to see clearer, healthier nails in just 3 months. Barely serious side effects in the liver or serious skin reactions have occurred. Other side effects.
Well, that was actually useful. That was a helpful
They
thing.
didn't mention anything about fungus.
Well, I think it was a fungal
Was it
infection.
implied?
They're speaking about
They
fungal
didn't want to say the word.
No.
It's an ugly word.
No, fungal is a word. It is an upsetting word
Fungal
for
is
a
a
lot of
better word
people.
than fungus.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The adjective is better than
How
the
do you
noun.
like those ads
Okay.
you see with the toes that have the fungus thing?
disgusting.
It's disgusting. I mean, and is that supposed to get somebody to buy the product or be disgusted and
I
turn
don't
away?
know. But that's one of the reasons why men should not wear sandals in the summer because
of the fungus
a lot of
thing?
men do not have the toenails are not they're unsightly.
There was
Jim.
a study
They're
that came out
unsightly.
JAMA yesterday. 78% of men have fungal infections. 78%. And the other 22 will have one soon. So it's really
okay.
Sorry. This is totally Marjorie's fault.
And from Concord. Oh, Jane from Concord. Whoops.
Sorry. Hi, Jane. Welcome. Talk a long time because we're out of control here. Go ahead, Jane. Go.
Hi guys. I have a few points if you want me to
Please,
talk
take your
longer.
time. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I definitely think the mom is completely unreasonable and clearly has major problems.
I think she is too,
I did have a family friend growing up with 5 kids, and they did have to wash the towels every single day and go up and down the stairs of their house and use the clothes dryer, and I just think that's very wasteful.
Very wasteful.
I don't see any reason no reason why each person in the family couldn't have a pale color towel that can still be laundered together, but each person has their own color. And also, drying your towels outside the bathroom makes them dry better. So I actually like to do that. And I also like a terry cloth robe, which is easy to hang up outside the bathroom.
Love terry cloth
and
robes.
dries better.
So where do you hang your towels if not in the bathroom? What's the deal there?
Yeah, I hang them in the bedroom to dry.
Wow. Oh, well, that's because there's no dampness. Is that what the thing is?
Yeah.
Oh,
it
I
dries
like it.
better outside the bathroom. Yeah.
Jane, that was excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
And you bailed us out too, Jane. We really appreciate your call.
Somebody texted a little while ago and said that their grandson has a ringworm on his face. I ain't going near his towel. And then somebody
you have ringworm on your face?
I don't know. And then another person says they got a fungal infection on their neck. But you know what? The dicky covered it
that's
completely.
great. That's so funny.
Took care of the whole.
Here goes Margaret
Took care of the
again.
whole thing. Okay.
We've ruined this whole
And
segment.
a texter says, "How do we solve the NPR defunding crisis?"
Fungal ads, of course. I mean, you're such a one-trick pony. You know that? Get stuck on something.
I'm stuck.
Just keep feeding her. She'll
stuck
keep taking it.
on fungus.
George-
It's a bad place to be stuck.
George in Sudbury, welcome to the show, George. How are you?
Oh, pretty good, but there are a couple of things people can do.
Please.
If they want to save water, they can take Navy showers.
Sure.
You know?
Which
You
is
just-
what's that?
You turn on the water, you get wet, you turn it off, soap up,
Yeah.
however long you want to take, and then
Sure.
rinse it off.
Yeah.
The other thing is, what's an extra towel going to cost to wash?
Yeah.
And it depends on how much water you're using to wash.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you're probably there was another suggestion already about
What was that?
water. How often do you shower? So
Yeah.
yeah.
So were you in the
there-
Navy?
so-
How'd you learn about the Navy shower?
From my mother-in-law, didn't want to pay me to run up a water bill when I stayed with her in Maine.
That's pretty good. Hey, George, thank you for the Navy shower suggestion. We appreciate it. Maybe I don't know, this may be Jane. Maybe the mom is trying to persuade the 21-year-old daughter to finally move out. That's a possibility.
I think Jared disapproves of us. He's shaking his head.
I would say, knowing you, I'm going to guess before you say it. I would say Jared doesn't wash a towel every day. He washes the towel every 4 hours. That's what I would, knowing you as I do.
The other question, of course, is how do you feel about fungal infections?
I have this whole thing stuck in my head. You're stuck on fungus. Fungus is stuck on you because of you now. I can't even remember what
Wait,
the
is
real.
that a real
what's
jingle?
The,
Is that a jingle?
What is it? If you're stuck on
I never heard of
stuck
it.
on fungus.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
Fungus in me, fungus in you.
Where are you on the a-hole towel issue?
Because I just throw them out after I use them.
That's right.
Who reuses a towel? That's gross.
And it is gross. Somebody says they only take a shower once a week, and that's why they only use a towel once a week.
I
That's
know
a
that.
long time not to take a shower.
Well, there
I
was
would
that
say.
study recently that said we're not supposed to do that because it's better for your skin.
Yeah, you
it's
can
not
remember
better for
those
everybody
two-
in the office.
No.
We had two MIT people in who formed a company who made a lot of money about 8 years ago.
Oh yeah, that dirt stuff.
The dirt stuff where they never, the guy, it was a woman who was head of the company, and the guy, how many years hadn't he taken a shower? Like
10
21
years.
years or 10
Yeah,
years
10
or
years.
something?
Ew. I know.
Because he used some spray
know.
or something.
Yeah, it was dirt. He put dirt.
Now,
in
he
dirt.
did admit when we asked him that he hadn't dated in 20 years. Now, that was a side effect.
Yeah,
that was
his
troubling.
wife left him. And
No, actually, that's not true. None of that is true.
We're making a joke.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, a friend of the show texts, how far down the tubes can public radio go? Now we know. Thank you.
But don't you
Yes, that's
notice
true.
if you're
Thank you.
watching a television show and they
Yeah.
have ads about
Fungal
nail
stuff.
fungus, you know the show's in big trouble.
Yeah.
That's the lowest of the low.
Yeah. Is it always men? It is always men.
It's always men. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with men. They need more. Maybe they need more pedicures.
Maybe.
I don't think fungal. We didn't get to the bottom of this, and we should really move on. I don't think it's just in your feet. I think it's in your thing. I
Well,
mean,
the person said they had it in their neck, but then they got a dicky.
okay, well, that was not funny.
To
Once
cover
was
it.
unfunny.
It was-
Twice was ridiculous.
Yeah,
okay, what are you doing on the show, please?
Oh my God.
Exactly. You're going to have three careers all at once.
Take us all down.
Yeah.
What would Walt Whitman do? That's what we're leading the show with.
Oh.
We're not talking about fungus. Because Elisa New, of course, host of Poetry in America, she wrote an essay for the New York Times recently looking at the defunding of arts in this country. And as she does with poetry, looks at poetry and thought, what would Walt Whitman make of this, and how would he process this? So we'll have that conversation. And then Pulitzer Prize winning critic Robin Given will be joining us to talk about her new book about the pioneering artist and fashion designer Virgil Abloh, who died very young at 41 before making an epic splash in the luxury fashion industry. And then Mike Ross will be here talking about his family's legacy and how they're donating the flag his father received from a soldier after being rescued, his father was rescued from Dachau to the new Holocaust Museum in Boston.
Like 15
and he was
years.
a city councilor for years.
I'm dying to hear that. Yeah. And ran for mayor, as you recall. Remember his running ads?
Yes, and his father was such a wonderful man.
Incredible.
Founded the Holocaust Memorial here.
That's right.
Well, that sounds great, Jared. We'll see you later.
All right.
Okay.
Jared Bowen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you all for listening.
Okay, she's about to do another fungal joke, which is not going to be funny.
I'm not going to do
I know this
anymore.
woman. Go ahead.
People are upset. They're eating their lunch.
They should be upset.
Okay. Thank you, though, for listening to another edition of BPR, including the fungal segment. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page, Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow, we're back at the Boston Public Library talking with Media Matters Vice President Julie Milliken for our Press Play Media Analysis segment. Also, Live Music Friday with the Irish folk ensemble Solace. That's it. Ahead of the Lowell Folk Festival, plus GBH's Callie Crossley, Congressman Jake Auchincloss, and MIT economist John Gruber talking about where the economy is headed. Our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, Patrick Lally. We're on our YouTube stream today. Our engineer is John the Claw Parker. Our executive producer is Jane Bologna, who hopes to be able to get his car charged at the Atlantic Hotel before Christmas. It's a 50-50
Well, you know
shot.
how when he can make an appointment? If he goes to our new website, fungal.com, he can make an appointment to charge his car.
I'm Marjorie.
Jim Browder, bye.
Thanks for listening.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the MBTA commuter rail, providing public transportation service to over 170 cities and towns in Massachusetts. Just take the train. You can plan your trip at mbta.com/massbytrain. The Great American Recipe is back. A new group of talented home cooks showcase signature dishes in this uplifting competition. Catch an all-new episode of The Great American Recipe tomorrow night at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at